Thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Biggest crowd I've had so far. I don't know if it's because of Jesse or obviously Camry or I don't know why it is. So, but we appreciate you coming. I'm JB Johnston, representative of City Council for District 5, our district. We're actually sitting in District 4. District 5 is across the street. So, but when the Westlink Library reopens, that's where we'll be. So it'll be nice. I always rotate the chairs. Chairing the meeting tonight, it's gonna be Jennifer Salvo. She's gonna chair the meeting tonight. Be nice to her because she just told me she's pregnant. Again, thanks for coming, and Jennifer, turn it over to you.
Okay, I also want to say this is my first time chairing this, so if I need help, I wanted to do it in front of a smaller crowd, so. So I guess we start off with a call to order of the meeting. We have to.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with approval of last meeting's agenda,
Oh, this
meeting's agenda. Thank you, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
So do I have any motions?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now we will move to approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to change about the last month's agenda? If not, can I get a motion?
Move for approval?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And you get good this already.
Okay, so next we're moving to public agenda. We have no scheduled items. So if there is any individual present that did not request to speak on the public agenda prior to this meeting, you may speak at this time. That does not have to do with the case that we are specifically covering in new business. So is there anybody who would like to? Anything?
The other subjects?
Any other subjects?
Okay.
Nope, hearing none. Do we have to approve anything?
No.
No, okay, we're just gonna move right on to the board agenda. So updates, issues and reports. Having,
Just a quick update. Several of us here got a tour of the water treatment plant. Really cool. It is really cool. It's really completed. They just need testing. So they need, Jennifer can correct me. She's a water expert, engineer. They need 500,000 gallons for 6 days to test it, and then another, what, 200,000 or 300,000 for 10 more days or something like that.
to test it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be using approximately 30 million gallons a day for certain periods of time, up and sometimes 60 million gallons a day.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of water. That's why they can't test it now. Because Cheney's really low. It's over 8 feet below normal. So anyway, waiting, hopefully get some rain. And then, when usage goes down, Jeff just gave it to her and he said we used how many million gallons today?
48.
48 million gallons today. Without restrictions, it's in that 80 million range. So restrictions have really cut the water usage down. So we still use 48 million gallons today. So it's a lot of water. So looking forward to getting that online, hopefully by April 1st. So that'll be good. Other than that, typical issues of parking, we haven't dealt with yet. We'll deal with that later this month. So I have a parking plan. I'll just tell you, my preference is to have some measure of free parking in downtown, like an hour or 90 minutes, then charge for it. A lot of the businesses there want that also because the help doesn't park in a good parking place for 8 hours and ties up the places their customers could go. So I think we can meet a happy medium in there. So, does anyone have any questions or anything? We are going to have a report from Jesse Kaufman on golf. So I think you'll find it interesting too. So if you haven't been here, you're going to get a report from police, fire, library, and the park system. They'll all be short reports, but they're very informative. So I hope you enjoyed those. Hope somebody can come back. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, now we'll hear from Jesse Kaufman.
We also have a member online. Grace is online. So she's a member of the district advisory board also.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. As he said, my name is Jesse Kaufman. I'm the director of the golf division for the Four City golf courses. Appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak to you all tonight. I didn't realize it was going to be this packed, so I'm a little more nervous. Before I get started, I would like to know how many, if there's any golfers here, any people that play free golf. Okay, just gotta know. So, all right, where'd you play? Auburn. Okay, nice. So I thought what I would do tonight is first talk about kind of the participation and some of the things that happened. I'll try to make it quick over the last year, and then more importantly, what our plans are going forward and some of the projects that we have. So see if I can operate this thing. Right here.
Oh, it's not on you.
I cannot. Turns out.
Face it toward the ceiling.
All right, so. You're right.
See how well his water treatment facility works?
Okay, so looking at 2023, we had right at 190,000 rounds of golf played in our four courses. To put that in perspective, that's about 40,000 more rounds than we had in 2019, 18, 19, and we had 5 golf courses. So we lost a golf course and we've added 40,000 rounds. You can look at the number of rounds at each course, Texan Solver, the layout of that course, it's just a factory. You can fly around that place. We could put a lot of rounds up. 52,000 rounds just at that one course. Every course was up over 40,000, closer to 45,000. So a lot of people in our community. It's a huge golf community, so it's very important to the citizens. Over 50,000 unique visitors. And the way I measure that, that's how many people have an account in our system and made a purchase. Now, when you think about that, when they come in and just buy our bucket of range balls, we don't add them we don't create an account, we just sell them. So it's actually a lot more than that. Someone stops in to eat, various different things. So I think that number realistically is probably 60 to 70,000. Total revenue in 2023 was $6.5 million, which is up nearly 700,000 from the prior year. That's great. That's awesome. But you look at just like everything else in the world, the cost of everything in some cases has doubled. And then of course, with more business, there's more expenses. So it is great, but golf courses are not cheap. There's a lot that goes into them. But yeah, the revenue was really good last year. And then I kind of threw this in 35,000 buckets of range balls were hit on our 3 driving ranges. If you break that down, that's almost 2 million golf balls were hit into the driving range, 3 driving ranges. So we had a ton of use in all areas of the facilities. Hey, all right. Looking at 2 important demographics for me, junior golf and senior golf. Junior golf, we had over 1,700 juniors that participated just in programming. That's classes, camps, competitive tournaments that we have, tours and things. That we have some great partners, First Tee, Wichita Junior Golf Foundation. If you're familiar with First Tee, they are in the process of building. It's almost a $2 million campus at McDonald. That campus is a lot more than just golf. They do after-school tutoring. They do have a library inside. Golf is a theme, but they use that to really help give these kids life lessons that they're going to take for the rest of their life. So very excited. We're very fortunate to have that partnership and have that on the way. That should be done hopefully in somewhere between March and May of next year. We have several other programs that we do for the juniors. And then I do want to mention real quickly, any kid that's 17 years of age or younger can play for free at any time, no questions asked. They come in, scan a QR code. we charge that to it's an account. It's basically a group of private fundraisers that raise the money. We charge it and they pay the green fee for any kid. There's no questions. It don't matter if they're from, what if they're from Canada and they come down and play. If they're under 17, they play for free. And we're one, I think Chicago and Wichita are two of the only markets that I can find that offer that. And I think it's fantastic. So very proud of that program. And then the senior rounds, we have nearly 850 senior members that have memberships at the 4 golf courses. And looking at that, we have over 50,000 rounds that are played by the senior, just the members, not seniors that come and pay a green fee, but just the seniors that have the membership. So it's a very important, very important thing that the city offers to them. This is how they get their exercise, their social, social life, so many things. So very, very important. About a year and a half ago, we formed the Golf Board of Governors. And I'll get into what they do in a second, but basically this board is made up of one representative from each golf course that is very active in the leagues and the folks that play there a lot, so they can give that feedback and bring it back to this board. An agronomy specialist, finance specialist, and a food and beverage / retail specialist. This board, we meet the third Tuesday of each month at City Hall. Some of the things that we do with this board does is that we review the financials and plan, and monitor the budget, make sure things are on track. Plan and prioritize projects, which includes maintaining and updating a 5-year plan. So we always have a vision of where we're going. Things change a lot, needs change. So we constantly monitor that, and then set the policies and the rules that we have. And then really important for me is they engage with the golfers at the courses to get that feedback of what really is important and bring that back to me. Things that I might think should be top of the list may not be for everybody else. I'm definitely open to take that feedback and put my wants aside and focus on the needs of the golfers. Now, looking into the future, we have a lot of projects planned. I'll touch on this first one first. The food and beverage menus, we want to increase the offerings that we have in the clubhouses. We've begun to do so. We just filled the food and beverage manager or supervisor position. So over the winter, we're going to tweak that, and we're hoping to be able to bring in not just golfers, but make it places where someone could just pop in for lunch, be at the golf course, eat lunch, go back to work, and really offer a lot more of that aspect. Everything else is focused right now is course conditions. It's been a very great year in a lot of different ways. Bermuda this year was hit very hard with winter kill across the entire region. We have tried a couple of different ways to battle that. Some worked, some did not. So we definitely want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure next year the fairways are as good as they can be. One of the things we're in the middle of right now is overseeding with ryegrass. So any spots in the fairway that did not recover, we're gonna have great grass through the winter into the early spring. And then that'll help lead us into the summer, late spring, summer of next year. Some of the areas that did not recover very well, we have a plan next year to sod those fairways in the areas that's needed to get them back to where they should be. And then a big topic I want to get in just a second is irrigation. So for you all that do play golf in here, a couple of things at the overseeding we're doing. Tex, actually, we did a huge project, spring project, because they were hit terribly, and it's came back fantastic. That course is awesome right now. Mac, there's a lot of problems with the fairways, and we did the overseeding 2 weeks ago. We're gonna sod, we're gonna do a bunker project there and at Auburn Hills to get the bunkers where they should be. We're gonna aerify the fairways, open them up, get that grass to really try to pop, and then, with staffing is a big challenge right now, especially on the agronomy side. We are looking to hire a mechanic, which would be a huge addition to our team, because right now we have to send all of our equipment away and we have very old equipment. So a lot of things I think that's really going to help for next year. So the new irrigation. One thing that the biggest challenge when I got here, I realized our irrigation system, say at Sim, is over 40 years old. The average life of an irrigation system is about 25 years. So it doesn't work. I mean, just flat out, it's broken every single day. We're digging a hole and fixing a leak. It's terrible. So this was a huge obstacle. I mean, how do we get around this? So luckily, with the city council's approval, we were just approved to get new irrigation over the next 4 years at each course, starting at Sim and trying to get one done per year, depending on the contractor's availability. The benefits, obviously, operating efficiencies, better use of our water and less use of our water. Right now, when there's a leak, it always happens at 10 PM and we don't see it until the next morning. So we come and the fairway's flooded. Obviously, we don't want to do that. More efficient applications when it comes to fertilizer, seed, herbicide, pesticide, all that stuff. You can water it in correctly and you have a better use of that. You're not using as much. We could definitely save money there. As I said, less man hours repairing the broken systems there. I got 2 courses. That's all they do. It seems like every day. And then just overall better conditions. So the funding for this, the way, this project, the courses, SIM is going to be roughly 1.5 million. You're talking about irrigation ran all over this huge property. Tex and Mac, we're looking hopefully around 2 million and about 2.5 for Auburn because it goes 2 miles in each direction, highways, ponds, everything else. So the way this is going to be broken down, we council approved 500,000 to be transferred to the capital improvement project for this fund for this project. There's a $600,000 park enhancement fund that's in place. And as they work through their master plan and figure out the direction for all the things they're going to do, this, of course, golf balls under park. So that will be used for this. Council, one of the stipulations is they wanted to see a fee increase that would come up with an extra 200,000 a year. So we're working as a golf board to figure out how we want to do the fee increases. We want the bulk of this money to come from the golfers. They're the one using the golf courses. So those fee increases will go into effect in March once we figure out the most fair way to do that. And then the remainder will be paid back by the golf fund through a GO bond. So the golf fund will pay that back through our profits that we make to cover any cost above and beyond. So we're very excited. I think that's the key right now to our golf courses being in the shape that they should be in, the way that all the 190,000 people that play them want them to be in. So okay, with that, I'm glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Can you kill my baby in my yard?
I couldn't kill it if I tried. That's what's so dumb about it. Okay, well, thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Appreciate it.
I just want to thank Jesse very much. The main thing he's changed is the culture at the golf courses. They're very customer friendly now. So he wouldn't have to tell you no, they do it nicely and tell you a nice way. It's just a huge difference. And that's why the revenue is up hundreds of thousands of dollars because they do a great job of customer service. So I appreciate this.
I don't think we need to approve anything from
Not
that.
for that.
So now we're gonna move on to staff reports. First up, we have Officer Henry. Yes, who will speak for the police department.
All right, I'm Officer Lori Kimry. I am the Community Policing Officer for Beat 19, and I recently just took over 199 Beat, which probably includes some of you guys in here. I just brought some statistics. We'll go really quick because I know you guys have better things to talk about tonight. But so 19 Beat is everything north of 17th, everything from basically here to 119th, and then clear to Mays. So it's a fairly large area. I brought the year-to-date stats and everything is down, so that's good. This is all your homicides, rapes, robberies, ag assaults, burglaries, larcenies, your car vehicle break-ins. All that stuff is down this year, so that's good news. Now, 199 Beat, that's everything basically north of Douglas to 17th Street because they kind of butt together. Everything west of Ridge Road to say 119th, 135th Street. There was a slight increase on robberies, and if you think robberies, you think, hold up, give me your money. But that also includes, like, I go into Quick Trip and I grab a bag of chips and I push the clerk out of the way and take them. That's also considered a robbery because I used force to leave with the product. So when you think of robbery, that's the most of what we had. We had 3 more than last year, and those were all from persons. So that means maybe I wanted that guy's bike, so I pushed him off his bike and took his bike. That's what that means. So it's not necessarily a gun by gunpoint, but we did have 3 more than last year. The larcenies, and that includes your vehicle break-ins, your garden gnome was stolen off your porch, anything that is taken from outside of buildings. So front yards, inside of vehicles, stuff like that. There was just a slight increase by 4%. So we had let's see, let me do my math. It's 8 more than last year. So we're about the same. There's nothing that's a really large increase. Auto thefts are up a little bit, but I think you all heard about the Kias and the Hyundais that are being stolen. That's the majority of our problems out here or those are being taken. Cause you don't need a key to get into them, right? Somehow they figured how to get into them. So those are your stats, for your 2Bs that cover most of District 5. I just wanted to mention a couple of events that we have coming up. We have the Second Chance Thursday, so if you know somebody that has a driver's license that's suspended, we can try to help get that back. If they have traffic warrants, we can help clear the warrants, establish a court date. We have DMV there that can work with them to try to get like a restricted license until those fines are paid off. So at least they're driving valid, because the most reason people run off from a hit and run is because they don't have a license or they have warrants. So we're trying to eliminate that problem. That is going to be October 24th at the Evergreen Recreation Center. We had to change it. So it's 2700 North Woodland, 27 North Woodland. So if you know somebody's sending our way, it's going to be from 9 to 4. And then we have ICT Open Streets coming up on October 13th, next Sunday. We'll be out there. So just remember, Douglas is going to be shut down from Vine to Hillside. So if you try to do something downtown from 11 to 5, that street's going to be closed. So we'll be out there riding bikes and hanging out with the community. So try to make it short and sweet. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Question, in your opinion, do apartment complexes have more crime than residential? Or does it increase?
Say yes. I am not getting involved. It really depends on the apartment complex.
There you go.
Not her first.
I have one.
This is 2005. So. Yes, sir.
Hopefully a little simpler than that question. On your numbers, how skewed do you think that is by just people not wanting to report?
You know, a lot of people don't. So the biggest crime that's not reported is like, say somebody went through your car overnight and you don't know if anything's taken, nobody reports that. You know, they tell their neighborhood or next door apps and stuff like that, somebody broke into my car, but they don't tell us. So then they complain that we're not doing anything, but we don't know anything about it. So, you know, if I have a group of 10 people in one area that's complaining that, but most of our vehicle break-ins are honestly because somebody left a purse, wallet, bag, electronics, something in the car overnight and left it unlocked.
The reason I asked that is my brother's been a police officer for a long time, and you guys are just so understaffed and overworked. It's, you know, I've had stuff stolen from my yard and it's
Yeah.
not worth
But you
reporting.
know, you can always call our case desk and make the report without an officer coming out if it's something not emergent. Hey, you know, my garden gnome was stolen overnight and I'm upset about it. You can call 268-4221 and make a report 24 hours a day to report that. It still gives us our stats. So still lets us know about it. But you don't, I mean, if you're not wanting to wait for an officer 5 hours and it's just a simple theft, you can call and make that. And we can.
I'd rather have you guys focus and resources on more important stuff.
I mean, we can still come out if it's super important, but you're just probably might need to wait in a minute. But you know, if you want to just report it so we know about it, you can always do that by the phone. That phone number is 268-4221. Perfect.
I asked the chief how many short are they now? I just asked him last week. Now they're down to, with the new class that's gonna be coming in, they're on the streets yet. They're 40 officers short. Was 105 a year ago. So they're making up ground on getting those
We're
officers.
trying.
Yeah.
So,
The other thing is District 5 in 2023 is the safest district in the city. We have less of everything in District 5.
yes.
So, yes, keep it that way. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to get on to it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
You're welcome to stay.
Oh, no. I got
Okay, next we have up is our fire department report from Chief Jason Jones.
I heard that. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Jones. I'm Battalion 4. One of 3 out here on the west side. We've run out of 16th and Tyler. Just some stats for you all and some reminders. Then I'll stand for questions. District 5 had only 1 fire this last month, so that was nice. We did investigate 24 fire scenes in the city from July 20th to August 19th. Damages exceeded $982,000. Like I said, only one fire in District 5, which was a garage fire from someone smoking in a garage. With significant damage. I did go to that call. So we have had unfortunately 6 fire-related fatalities this year in the city. So we always work hard to prevent that. And in fact, this is Fire Prevention Week, so we do have a lot of activities going on. The zoo, which a lot of people know, like 5th graders, 4th and 5th graders, I think, go out there every year. And so we'll be doing that. We have a new, what we call brush truck, which we use to fight the grass fires, which we just had one down by Sun Park a little bit ago. So we have an additional brush truck coming to town October. I think it's the first part of October. It's not here yet, but should be here, and it'll be stationed at the south end of the city. We have one out at 21, which is 135th and 21, and then one up on North Broadway, and then one way in the far east. So we have quite a bit of urban, what we call urban interface, where we have the pretty trees and brush keeping the road noise down from the neighborhoods. So that's always an issue for us, because in the wind and dry conditions, we don't want to, like, particularly for my area on 29th from, Tyler to Mays out there. We get that going, then next thing we know, we get that whole neighborhood, which we have done in my career up by WSU, burnt the whole neighborhood down. So we try to prevent that. So these trucks will help us reach those areas that are hard for us to reach in our big apparatus. So that is about the biggest things going on with this past Sunday. We had our memorial that we have every year down by Firehouse 2 on South Broadway. Put 4 additional members from the state of Kansas on the wall. And so that was a nice event, and had about 70 or 80 people maybe there. So does anyone have any questions for me about apartments or anything? Been doing this a long time. I can answer any question. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Chief, I might add, Fire Prevention Week, we're gonna have a District 5 fire department will be at Starbucks
Yes.
on 21st Street.
I think it's on Central.
89,
Central.
20 Central, you're right. 8971 West Central,
Right, tomorrow, is that right?
Friday
Right,
from
at
8
9
to 10.
8 to 10, yes. Not my day. But it's today.
You can come at 9.
Monday, Thursday. Yeah, so yeah, Chief Eck will be there.
You got to be there.
So, we also, this weekend, we have the largest fire school in the state of Kansas, out at our training facility. It'll be going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where members from this department and other areas from all around the nation come in and help train. They'll train over 400 firefighters, largely from Kansas and then other states as well. It's Wichita Hot. You'll probably see it on the news. It's a big event, and something the fire department is very proud of. So, thank you all. Oh, question.
In the police report, we heard that how many policemen were down? How many firefighters?
I don't think we're really down that many other than just attrition right now. We have actually 7 recruits coming into class or in class right now. And once we get to that, get those folks out, we'll be back up to where I think budgetary wise, where we're supposed to be. We're always, we always could use more more firefighters. We do have a scheduled firehouse to be built out at Mays and Pawnee here in next couple of years, in essence. So we've expanded, cities expanded to the southwest and the northwest quite a bit. So we're underutilized in some areas of the city as far as where our firehouses are located, but we're addressing that.
The next one after that will be in our district.
Yeah.
It'll be on North Ridge Road. So
up way north, like up around 96, so
Yeah.
in that area. So,
Yeah, so.
not a large volume, you know, in District 5 as far as calls, as far as our world goes. But there's large homes and a lot of distance between apparatus. And for us, you know, unlike police, timing's really important in our world. So the sooner we can get there, the better. So, yeah, but staff wise, we're doing pretty well. Anybody else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Next, we're gonna hear our public library report from Westlake Branch Manager Tracy.
This will be the most dynamic report you hear.
As they indicated, my name is Tracy Partridge. I'm the manager of the Westlake Branch Library. And I'm always thrilled to be here, but I'm really thrilled to be here when there are roughly 90 to 100 people. I'm guessing that not every single one of you has a library card, and if you do not, it is not too late, and there's all sorts of. The Westlake Branch Library is currently located at 7011 West Central Suite 205. That's at the intersection of Central and Ridge, and it's because we are going through an incredibly big expansion and remodel project. We are on target to get back to our permanent site at 8515 Beckmeyer sometime in January. We don't know when, but right now we're on track to get there at that time. Right now, well, I'm going to say for the people that don't know, basically what they're doing is they are almost doubling the size of our library. They're adding a maker space, a gaming space, 2 outdoor spaces, 1 for kids, a much bigger children's room, collaboration rooms, and larger meeting rooms. So it's a really big thing and something that we're incredibly excited about. So right now with the Westlake one, this month what they've been working on is flooring, soundproofing, millwork, and they laid the patios for the children's and the adult spaces. It's not enough to have just one library remodeled at a time. So now we've actually got 3 models, 3 libraries that are being remodeled at a time. Our Rockwell Library, they are actually getting about 6,000 square feet added to them. And then our Angelou Northeast Library, which is at the intersection of 21st Street and Hillside, they actually just closed September 28th because they are getting a small addition and then everything refinished. So we're incredibly lucky and excited with all of the changes that are happening at the library. Something that I want to mention is on Monday, October 14th, no Wichita Public Library location is going to be completely open. And the reason why is because we are all going through training so that we can be smarter and hopefully better able to help you when we reopen on the 15th. Even when the library is not open, you can still use the library. It is like totally awesome. With a library card, you have access to over 40,000 ebooks and e-audiobooks. Library cards are free. You have access to a streaming movie service called Canopy. You have access to over 40 databases, things like New York Times, the Wichita Eagle, Consumer Reports Online, okay, which is even better than the magazine when making purchasing decisions. Just all sorts of awesome things. And all you have to do is have a Wichita Public Library card. So if you don't have one yet, you need to get in before the 14th. Another thing that I want to mention is we have some upcoming programs that I think are really cool coming up. On Wednesday, October 9th from 1:30 to 2:30 at the Advanced Learning Library, we're going to have Larry Hatterberg, a personal retrospective. I'm sure that you're aware that he is a journalist who has been reporting for over 50 years. He has actually the longest running news feature in Kansas. He has written 2 books, which were bestsellers. And what he's going to do is he's going to tell stories and share memories from his time in broadcasting. And I think that that sounds like so fascinating because what he recognizes is that every single person has something interesting about them, a story to tell. And just like all of you have something interesting about you and a story to tell. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we have a program called Spooky Stories for Grown-ups. That's on Friday, October 18th from 7 to 9 at the Advanced Learning Library. That is only for grown-ups because discretion is advised. There's going to be gore. There's going to be frightening situations. There's going to be violence. It's going to be done by actors. It's going to be awesome. And it is actually hosted by Madam May for Madam May's Frights. And then the final thing that I wanted to mention is we're having a DIY day on Saturday, November 2nd from 10 to 5 at the Advanced Learning Library. That's when we encourage makers, inventors, and creatives to share their unique projects and creations with the Wichita community. If you are one of those fabulous makers, inventors, creatives, you could go to our website and you could actually apply to be a person that is showing your skill. We also are still looking for volunteers who don't want to actually be one of the makers, inventors, or creatives. You can help, okay? That would be absolutely awesome. Does anybody have any questions about the fabulousness of the library? Yes,
What time is the Larry Hadberg?
it's at 1:30. It's from 1:30 to 2:30. And they call it Senior Wednesday Larry Hadberg, a personal retrospective. I'm going, even if I'm not senior.
Awesome.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, what else? Okay. No
With all the-
questions? Oh, one more.
I just want to say thank you for the auto renewal thing.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
The saver.
So in case you don't know, the library at the beginning of September turned on something called automatic renewals. So when you take a library material home, when it is almost due, if it can be renewed, the software will just automatically renew it. It can't be renewed if it's on hold for another customer. It can't be renewed if you've done it twice already. But it's just a way to make your library experience even more positive. That's what we're about, happy people. Okay, anything else?
When all the libraries are up and running, the West Branch has by far the most activity of any branch. That's why I tell my fellow council members, the west side's so much smarter.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Okay, up next, we'll have a report from our Park and Recreation Department, Program Specialist Barbara McGuire.
Hello. I am actually excited to see this many people because I get to talk about all the cool things that Park and Recreation does. So, first thing I'm going to start with is construction projects, and a lot of people are really interested about this one. Is the Country Acres Dog Park. So where we're at is the construction is ongoing, and they're hoping to get it completed in the early quarter of 2025. So sometime in that first quarter, hopefully. The fencing is being installed. There is some sort of a utility line conflict that's creating a problem with the parking lot, so they're trying to work that out. So that's been a little bit of a trouble there. But they also have the longest lead time for the shade structures. They're not in yet either, so it takes a lot longer to get those. The artwork is being constructed offsite, so that is actually being done by Conrad Snyder. So I don't know who that is. I think it's just a local artist. So the Brock Wetlands, the construction is ongoing there. And if you don't know, there's just like an expansion of the boardwalk there is what it is. And so that is expected to be completed in January of 2025 if they stay on task. And they say that the helical piers are in place. And I had to like, what is that? They're just piers that are up, that basically elevate everything. They look like they're metal piers, and they're just trying to just thin things. So that's what a helical pier is. The fabrication of the metal boardwalk is being done offsite also. And so they'll be bringing that in for installation probably later this month. And then the artwork is also being constructed offsite by Conrad Snyder. And then also one more dog park, Canine Rooster Dog Park there at Meridian. It's in District 6, I believe. It's getting close to being done. So you dog lovers, you're gonna really enjoy this. Construction is anticipated to be completed by Thanksgiving. And then the new shade structures there will be arriving in late October. The grass is gonna be seeded within the next couple of days, and it'll start to germinate and get everything ready once the park opens. So it ought to have a good stand by that time. Okay, events this weekend. We got a busy weekend this weekend. Well, this week we did have the Wichita Career Fair. The city of Wichita has a career fair ever so often to let people know about jobs that are available, whether it be part-time or full-time jobs. So that was actually just happened on Tuesday. Over at Knapsker Park on Saturday, we've got Blocktoberfest that's happening. And so we've got Knapsker Park has a vendor market that day. And it's from 11 to 6. And on Saturday, they're gonna have local artists. There's gonna be a small business market. Plus there's activities such as, and this sounds like fun to me, a wiener dog race, which begins at 1. Musical chairs, but they say it's with a twist, so sounds like it's gonna be kind of interesting too. A dad bod contest, if you're interested in that, I have no idea. what kind of- I'm interested in seeing that one myself. And then they'll have yard games and music, so a lot of stuff going on there. City Crew, our City Crew is our free kids club for ages 2 to 12. And the event, we do an event once a month, and the event this month is actually at the Advanced Learning Library. And they're doing a one called Fairy Tales and Fables. And it's only open to City Crew members, so it's very exclusive, but any City Crew member can get registered. It's free. So we want to make sure that kids know about that. And it's on Saturday from 2 to 4. So definitely get signed up for that if you've got any grandkids or kids or anybody that's in that age group. The Prairie Fire Marathon and the Open Streets ICT, which they are mentioning, is on Sunday. The Open Streets ICT, if you're not familiar with it, it's a big, big event. I mean, the Douglas is closed 4.1 miles from Delano to College Hill. So it is a big area. And the whole thing is just get out, get physical. We want walkers, we want bikers, we'll get skateboarders and things like that, but definitely no non-motorized vehicles. People are walking around. We've got different hubs where there's things going on. We've got food vendors along the course. You've got the businesses that are along the route. They're open for you guys. And we've got other types of vendors that are in showing their wares, so you can see other things that Wichitans are making and you can purchase it. So we've got that going on, and they've got also kids stations every so often too, so that way kids will have things to do. So it's really, really big. But the Prairie Fire Marathon is in the morning. And we partnered with them this time because we felt like police have to be there for both of our events. And so if we did it on the same day, we could share the cost on police officers. We can share the cost on barricades. So we're going to see how that goes this year. And the Prairie Fire Marathon is in the morning, but the Open Streets is at noon to 5. So it's basically afternoon. Hoping we'll have some good weather. We've been extremely lucky to have good weather. And then for those who like to be frightened, Wicked Island is going on, of course. It's been running all through October. It's on Fridays and Saturdays. It's from 8 until midnight. And we will have one last night on October 31st, which is a Thursday. So that'll be the closing of that. Okay, so upcoming Halloween events. So this is big for us because we get a lot of kids, and so we have a lot of events we want to make sure they know about. We've got the Candy Crawl. It's usually at Clapp Golf Park or Clapp Park now. They're doing a lot of construction there. So we've moved it over to the Plainview area. So that's on the Friday, October 18th from 6 to 8. And we are still looking for vendors, some people who want to come and set up a booth, give out candy, that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, you definitely need to give me a call, and I'm sure they can give you my number if you're interested in that. That's a free event. So we do a lot of free events, especially this time of year. We do have a workshop for kids called Spooky Eats Workshop. So it's just a quick workshop, making something fun and something not really creepy, but just something fun to eat for the holidays. We've got that at Evergreen Rec Center, and we've got a couple classes at Evergreen and Edgemoor for the older kids. We've got a Halloween party for grade school kids, and that's at the Linwood Rec Center. And that is grade school kids only, and they typically get 200 to 300 kids at it. So it's a pretty big event. And that's October 25th from 6 to 8. It's also free. They've got a fall festival at Evergreen Recreation Center, which is a little bit closer to here. And that's also on Friday, October 25th from 6 to 8. And it is also free. And then we have one last thing. It's a cookie decorating class, and the theme is scary movies. So Christie's Cookies does these classes, and they're so much fun, and everybody just loves them. And it's a family program. So it's ages 14 plus, which we love because then parents and kids can take the class together. It is at the Orchard Rec Center on Saturday, October 26th. So, and there's still openings in that. So finally, we have our athletics department. Greater Wichita Junior Football is still in full force right now. And in case you didn't know, we partnered with USD 259 this year. So we're utilizing their school fields, which is great. And a lot of their coaches and things too. And we have apparently gotten a lot of great feedback from both the parents and the coaches. So everyone seems to be really liking this partnership. So that's wonderful. There's a lot of teams that went to a different league, and they've already said, we're coming back. So we're probably going to get a lot of teams back next year too, because it is going so great. And that's it on the football. We've got slow pitch softball. That's still going on. That's adults, co-ed and men's. And again, we're halfway mark. That'll end at the end of October. We've got our adult kickball league, and believe it or not, that is fun. That is a fun league, and the kids, adults really love it. It's a kid sport, but adults really love it too, so it's a lot of fun. We're in the middle of that, and, oh, actually, I'm sorry, that one ended a couple weeks ago, so I apologize on that. The other thing we have is the Miracle League, baseball. And so Miracle League is for our special populations, and it is a fantastic program because the kids get to participate in an event, and they have a buddy that they partner with, and then they get to participate in all these different types of sports and things that they normally wouldn't get to do, and they love it, and it's just a lot of fun, and that's all it's about, is getting them out there, getting them socializing, and getting them to where they feel like they're really a part of the team. And so that is actually going on, and we're about halfway through that right now. We have other Miracle League programs that we do. We do, I think, about 4 times a year right now, so we'll have another one that'll be in the wintertime. So if you're interested in helping out with that, we are always looking for buddies, people who can buddy up with kids and help them through the activities. So that is what we've got going on just this month. So, any questions?
I have a comment. more
Yeah.
comment. So I always just wanted to say how appreciative I am of the Parks and Rec Department. My company, I organized a park cleanup, and the Parks and Rec Department provided us with free of charge pickers, gloves, and trash bags. And so just to have that kind of resource to go into the community to volunteer I think is wonderful. So I'm really appreciative of you guys.
We are very appreciative of you to have people who can come out because, again, it's just like everybody, staff is, it's like, we don't have a lot of staff, a lot of extra staff. So anything that we can get from the community to help us out, we really appreciate that. So thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
How'd things work out with the goats?
You know what? I didn't have a report on that today. A couple of the people who were over that, they're at our national conference this week, which is why I'm presenting, and I didn't get to find out. But I know the first time we did it, they were amazing, and they were just such a big draw, and people would come out and watch them. So I have no reason to believe that they weren't. They were still good this year. They're a lot of fun.
Great resource.
Anything else? Okay, Wichita Park and Recreation, we are the fun department, so come out and see us.
So that wraps up all of our staff reports. So do I have
Motion to receive and file.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we're moving on to new business. So everyone should have, if you don't have an agenda, we are reorganizing just a little bit because there's just in terms of getting things through. So we are going to move the zone 00044 to down to item number 11, and we're moving up zone 0045 and 0046. So we're going to start with zone 2024 00045.
Ready for that, these are gonna be quick. So,
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Ziebenbergen. I'm with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. All the other departments say all these great things as to why their circle room is packed. And if they're the fun department, well, if it wasn't for us, you all wouldn't be here. So they can thank us, or we bring everybody together. Anyway, so zone 2445 is a zone change request located at 996 North Tyler Road. It is a request for single family residential to general office. The purpose is to allow for, I believe they're going to be utilizing the existing dwelling into an office structure. Oh, and you want to go to to help make this brief, staff is recommending approval of it. Go one more time. Oh, there you go. Yep. So everything you see in green is general office. This is what they are also requesting. This is on North Tyler Road, which is a 4-lane arterial. They're looking to have office uses, which is what is already established in the area. It is a single family home. It's kind of about the entrance to the neighborhood, but so are several of those other things. Staff doesn't necessarily feel that it would be detrimental to the area. We have not heard any public feedback from this, and I can stand for questions. I don't know.
Do we have any questions? Do we do the?
Yes, okay, yeah, board has.
Does anybody from the board have any questions? Does anybody from the audience have any questions?
Remember this when we get to 44.
Okay. With no questions, can I get a motion? The recommended action is to approve this case. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, hearing the motion passed. Oh,
So did that just allow that to happen? So I'll go through.
not do?
No, not exactly.
Diligence on anything? You just.
So I'll explain kind of the procedure. So this is an advisory board to the city council. This case will also be presented to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission this coming Thursday. This board, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, provide recommendations to the city council. A zone change does not take effect unless the city council approves it. They take the recommendations from both of the boards into consideration, plus any other feedback they might receive, and they make a decision about a month from now as to whether or not a zone change should be approved. So nothing's final tonight. It's just a recommendation based on the recommendation from staff and the staff report, as well as any other information that the board has received thus far.
Explain to them between a majority, supermajority. There's a difference
Yes.
between the DAB and the planning commission.
Yes, so the DAB and the planning commission have separate recommendations. There's also a protest period after the planning commission, which is set by state statute. If a proper petition is submitted, which is 20% of the land area within 200 feet of a property, that requires the city council to have a supermajority vote, which is 6 out of the 7 city council members in order to approve a zone change. Planning staff can assist any of you. You can always call our office if you have questions about that, but that's just kind of the general process. For any zone change, not just this one, but any zone change in the city. Move on to 46. While Teresa's finding that, this is zone 2446. This is request to change the zoning from single family to limited commercial on the northwest corner of West Central and 119th Street North. The property is 1.07 acres in size. And if you want to go to the zoning map, page 7. Keep going one more. Yeah, oh, there you go. So it's on the northwest corner. Everything you see in red is limited commercial. You've got some offices in the northeast corner. You've got a Casey's in the southeast corner. The limited commercial that you see in the southwest corner is owned by St. Elizabeth. It's actually not developed right now, but if they were to ever sell it off, they could do limited commercial uses. So this is what the northwest corner is asking. You have single family to the west, but that single family zoning has a church. So you have a non-residential development anyway. The houses you see along North 119th Street are kind of the remnant of when this was back in the county. The city has moved that direction, and these are essentially, some of them are occupied as single family dwellings. We have screening and landscaping requirements that are there to help buffer and screen from residential uses to commercial uses. All of those would have to be adhered to. But considering it's an intersection of an arterial road and the other 3 corners are exactly what these people want to do, and those properties have the same rights. Staff is recommending approval. We also have not heard any public comment. The agent for the applicant is here if you have questions for him. The property is a single family home. Jay, are they keeping it or are they looking to?
They're gonna take that down.
They're gonna take it down to kind of make it a site ready. Yep. So with that, I can stand for any questions.
Is there any questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I live down the street from that, and that's been a sore for years. So I appreciate the opportunity to improve that corner.
Trying to do.
Does anybody else from the board have any questions?
Bill, will you go back up to the area?
Jay. Oh, wait, there you go.
Oh, okay, you're right. I got it.
Does anybody from the audience have any questions? Okay, hearing none, The recommended action is approval, so do I have any motions from the board?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. So next, we are going to move on to, zone 2024-00044. I assume this is what most of you guys are here for. But before we start, I want to kind of go over some of the general, like how we're gonna go through commentary and all that. So after he speaks, we'll have opportunity from the board to ask questions. And then we'll move on to audience, to you. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through kind of serpentine through the chairs, starting up front, and then work our way to the back. Each person will have up to 3 minutes to make commentary. During those 3 minutes, we ask that if you are making a comment on something that somebody else has already kind of gone through or described, that you try not to repeat. If we did that and everyone did 3 minutes, it'd be a very long night, right? And so we hear you if you have repeat comments, but we are listening to every single person. So I will also I will say 30 seconds when you have 30 seconds. Sure.
Is the developers gonna get to talk before we talk?
I do know that the agent for the applicant is here. It's up to you guys if you want to give them an opportunity to speak after me before you open to public comments.
What he was telling me outside is different than what we got at our meeting in the neighborhood. That might be beneficial for the.
Yeah, we'll let him speak prior to any questions being
Thank you.
asked. With that,
Again, this is zone 2444. It is located at 7722 West Maple. The applicant is requesting a zone change from single family residential to MF18 multifamily residential for multifamily development. Multifamily residential accommodates moderate density residential development. It can include anything from single family residences, 2-family residences, or multifamily residence, multifamily being more than 2 dwelling units in one building, so a triplex, fourplex, or things that are greater. MF18 is actually our lowest density multifamily zoning district. It permits 17.4 dwelling units an acre. Keeping in mind, though it's a 7-acre tract, you can't just take 7 times 17.4 because you have to provide areas for parking, landscaping, screening. So if you just do the simple math, you're not going to get that many dwelling units from that simple math. If you just do the simple math, it'd be 87. But because of having to provide parking for all of that, you're not going to get 87 dwelling units on the site. They would have to provide sufficient parking, which is 1.25 parking spaces for single bedroom apartments and 1.75 spaces for any multifamily or multi-bedroom apartment dwelling units. And so they have to be able to park and meet their parking requirement, which will likely reduce the actual number of dwelling units on the site once it all gets laid out. It would be required to have screening, which is a minimum of a 6-foot solid screening fence. Think of just a wood privacy fence. On the 3 sides are not along Maple, so the west, the north, and the east. Along those same property lines, the Wichita Landscape Code requires a landscape buffer, which is 1 tree per 40 linear feet. That's a calculation for each of those, and they're to provide the correct amount of trees along each property line to satisfy the landscape requirement. In addition to landscaping requirements along Maple, which has parking lot screening, which is the typical shrubs that you see for any commercial or multifamily residential along arterial streets, as well as the landscape street yard. So what you see across the street for the parking lots with where Target is and all of that, those are the same type of landscaping requirements that would have to be this, because it's multifamily along an arterial road. The zoning code also has compatibility standards. When you have anything greater than a duplex development next to single family or 2-family zoning. So this doesn't mean if they were to build duplexes on here, but all of those duplexes are on one lot, that's still considered multifamily and would have to be adhering to these compatibility standards. And what that means is Based on the development standards of the site, there's a minimum of 15 to 25 foot building setback. So when you're looking at the property lines from the east and the west and the north, a minimum of 15 to 25 feet that buildings would have to be built from those property lines. So we're not having multifamily buildings closest to the property lines near the single family development. In addition, there's height requirements as well. MF 18 would allow for a 45-foot building normally. But if a building is within 50 feet of a property line that's single family, it is limited to 35 feet, which is the height maximum in the single family zoning. So they cannot exceed the height requirement that is in single family zoning. And there's abilities for that building to grow as it gets more internal. But if you start measuring 50 feet from this side, 50 feet from this side, and 50 feet from the top, you start getting a smaller box for which taller buildings could be. And so you're looking at likely mostly just 2-story, possibly in the middle of the site. I haven't done the calculations, but probably no more than 3-story building in the middle of the site, if that's what they're looking to do. They might just be looking to do 2-story buildings, but either way, the setback and the height compatibility standards would have to be followed for construction on this site. Yes.
I've got a question. Can you bring up
So the way this process works is it's not conversational. So I'm gonna have my presentation. Your comments will have to be
All right.
public
I
comment.
just wonder how many other apartment complexes are in that little area. I see none.
So that kind of brings me to this point of the character of the area, as you all are very well familiar with. The north portion of Maple is predominantly zoned single family residential. You also have the school to the southwest. It's in single family residential zoning, but it's a school. To the south and the southeast, you have commercial zoning. That's where Target is, as well as Lowe's. And of course, you have the commercial intersection at Maple and Ridge. This site has access to West Maple, which is a paved 4-lane arterial road with turning lanes and sidewalks on both sides. It does have access to municipal services. And Wichita Transit doesn't provide service right in front of this, but it does provide service at Ridge and Maple. The comprehensive plan, if you want to go to the comp plan. That is next one. Yep. The dark brown here identifies the area for new employment. And then the topmost fraction of that is a pink color, which is for commercial uses. So a multifamily density development is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, which is actually calling for higher intensity uses than potentially just multifamily. New employment really actually is geared toward possibly new commercial uses.
We can't
But
hear you.
higher density residential would fit within those requirements as well.
Speak up, please.
I apologize. I've been talking all day. I'm trying to project as best I can. The community investments plan or the comprehensive plan has locational guidelines as well. So we can go first off of the map, but sometimes the map doesn't tell the whole story. So we zoom into locational guidelines, which talk about compatibility as well as development patterns and where certain types of uses should go in a more detailed fashion. One of the development pattern guidelines states that higher density residential uses and neighborhoods serving retail and offices should buffer lower density residential uses from major commercial employment centers and industrial uses. Based on the development to the south and kind of the southeast, we feel that the multifamily residential is a buffering tool where you're stepping down the intensity of uses from the commercial to the lower residential to the northwest. Overall, staff is recommending approval. Again, this will be considered by the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission this coming Thursday. So we don't have any input from them as to what their consideration is. And I'm feeling we have some public comment we're gonna hear from tonight, so I will.
Philip, remind him the time and the place of that hearing.
Yes, so the planning commission is meeting this Thursday, October 10th. It begins at 1:30. Like this type of meeting, there are multiple zoning items on that agenda. We will have agendas available at the hearing, so you can pick one up and see when it's going to be until your zoning case. And it begins at 1:30. It's at the Ronald Reagan Building, which is at 271 West 3rd Street. Our planning commission meetings take place on the 2nd floor.
That's the building just to the south of City Hall.
Yep.
And parking is free. You can park right there. It's on the 2nd floor.
Yep.
Feel free to go. You will get a chance to speak at that meeting. and bring-
Yes, so they have a
case.
very similar process where staff will make a presentation. The applicant agent will have their time, then they'll provide opportunity for public comment. Public comment, each person gets 3 minutes. It's very similar where they ask folks not to repeat themselves. It's not a dialogue where if you have questions, you simply state your questions and your comments. Once the public comment period is over, they will ask the applicant and agent back up to provide rebuttal, which provides an opportunity for them to address questions or concerns that were brought up from public comment. After that, the board will deliberate and provide their recommendation. Again, whatever the decision that's made by the planning commission on Thursday is not the final decision. There's a 2-week protest period, which staff can give you information about that. It begins on Friday and runs for 2 weeks. Those protests have to be submitted to the city clerk's office by 5 p.m. 2 Thursdays after communication. If a sufficient protest is received, the city council would have to have a supermajority vote in order to approve the zone change request. Anybody who provides their name and address at the planning commission meeting will get the follow-up letter from the planning commission, which has the dates of the protest period and will have the date of the city council meeting. The city council has a policy that they don't take additional public comment at their meetings. They take the minutes from this meeting and they take the minutes from the planning commission meeting into consideration at their meeting. They do not hold additional public comment. Anybody who gets the follow-up letter from planning commission automatically gets the follow-up letter from city council. In a way, we just help keep you informed. Since you have been involved, we want to keep you abreast of what the situation is. If you were not able to pay attention to the city council meeting, you will get a letter in the mail several days after, once we mail it, informing you of what the final decision was.
Is that still 200
So
feet?
technically, anybody can protest. There's a difference between valid protests and invalid protests. Anybody can submit a protest petition. What we do is any protest petition we receive, whether it's valid or invalid, we create a map and we identify all of the properties on that map. It becomes a visual representation of public comment, where you're not necessarily voicing opinion, but you're visually providing, I live here and I'm not in favor of this application. So don't feel like, oh, I don't live it within 200 feet, I should not protest. If you are protesting an application, you're not protesting a recommendation of this board, you're not protesting a recommendation from planning commission. Technically, the board could recommend denial, still submit a protest petition because you're protesting the application. The valid protests are from property owners within 200 feet of this property. That is a state statute. That is something the city cannot override. The city policy for notification is a greater distance and they have the ability to increase the notification boundary. The city does not have the opportunity to increase the protest boundary. They can't supersede the state statute on that. So state statute is the 200-foot boundary. It's 20% of the land area. That's why we encourage everybody to submit a protest petition. Because even if a fraction of your property is within that land area, we will count that fraction towards the protest. So it's not necessarily, well, we've got 20% of the signatures, it's 20% of the land area, this whole calculation that goes on. So again, it becomes a visual representation of anybody who's not in favor of the application.
Is there a transcript of this meeting provided to the council?
Yes, we get a DAB report from lovely Teresa, so pray for her for the next few weeks that she doesn't get carpal tunnel. But yes, we get a written record of this meeting and there's a written record of the planning commission. Both of them get submitted to the council.
That land area includes that commercial to the south too.
Correct.
So Dairy Queen and the strip center there.
And you're
School.
concerned about like street right of way, we give a net area, so we calculate how much of the land within 200 feet is road right of way, and we subtract that from the land area that we are considering, so that the true calculation is based on actual land that can protest. So you take your gross area, you remove all the road right of way that can't protest anything, you create a new square footage, and then we base the calculation off of that.
So does commercial properties protest too? Or?
They could, if the property owner does.
And what's the super majority count? I'm getting different. I hear 5, 7, or 6, 7.
So a supermajority is 6 out of 7 votes.
And if we add the protests, the percentage, it requires 6 of the 7.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to hear from the agent. The agent advocate. there a time limit on this?
Oh, not on him. He wants to stay all the time, I know.
My name's Kirk Miller. I'm the agent. I work for AE Miller Engineering. We are here to get some feedback as to how the neighbors feel, kind of see what your concerns are. I know there are concerns about things like drainage. Well, the good news is there's storm sewer out in the middle of Maple. There's an inlet real close to the property on the southeast corner, so we can handle getting the property drained. I think there was concerns somebody had about water, domestic water. There's a 20-inch water line out in Maple Street, so there'll be plenty of water. There's plenty of water in the whole neighborhood out there. It's bigger than most neighborhoods have around them, so this won't affect anybody's water pressure or anything like that. Philip did a good job of explaining all of the restrictions that are with this property, with this zoning that we've applied for. There are certain things you can do with these zonings, and as he said, you know, we could put in single-family houses or duplexes, or family, but there is a number of maximum number of units you can put on there based on the size of the property, and then meeting the parking requirements and these other things that Philip talked about. So it sounds like a lot when you look at the zoning, but you start looking at how it could actually develop, you start shrinking down what can actually be done on the property. Just
What's your
because.
plan? Tell us your plan.
Just
We're
a
gonna
minute.
refrain from.
Just a minute.
Right now, we applied for MF 18 to kind of see where we could go with it. You know, and see if we're gonna have any restrictions or anything like that that are put on us by the planning commission, by the city council, that type of thing. So instead of spending a lot of money up front, not knowing what you can actually do because you don't have the zoning, we're applying for the zoning, and then once we know what we can do, then we'll lay out what we can do with the property and then meet all those restrictions that will be put on the properties. So at this point, this is kind of an exploratory meeting for us, just to see what's out there and kind of get a feel of where this might be going as far as the planning commission. You know, they're gonna see what you guys vote on. So we'll have a better idea when the time comes as to where everything stands. So at this point, we'll just kind of sit back and see what happens with all the comments on this.
Well, what you bought was a single family home.
Just a second. Let's have some respect here of our process. There will be a process. You will get to speak. But let's just have some respect here. Next thing will be board questions from the board and questions from the audience. So if we could do that, I would greatly appreciate that.
Are you,
We're good, yeah.
okay, so I'm gonna open it up to questions from the board. I do have several questions myself, but I don't wanna go first.
Whenever there is a zone change request process, but which we are embarking on tonight, the issue at hand is the use of the land. Is that accurate? Right?
That is correct. So the request before you is whether or not multifamily up to 17.4 dwelling units an acre, which could include single family, two family, or apartment style dwellings, if that is an appropriate land use at this location.
Where I'm going with that is I know we're gonna hear a lot about the school, which is in relative close proximity, current traffic patterns and congestion, all incredibly valid. But at this juncture of this, like as we sit here tonight, we don't have any data
Correct.
or studies about traffic, right? It's purely about land.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions, so interrupt me if my first is, with the potential development in this area, multifamily, would there actually be opportunity for drainage improvements for the surrounding area? And either one of you guys can answer. I mean, I know I saw some complaints that were sent to us about the drainage, and I'm just curious if there's opportunity even for improvements for residents immediately adjacent. Not on their property, but maybe
Right.
not backing up into their.
And their properties drain back onto this property. And I looked at the topography and everything, and in the southwest corner of this property, it looks like there's a very flat spot for about 300-400 feet maybe, where water gets in there and it doesn't have any place to go. And this development would include collecting all that storm water, taking it over, tying into the system that's out in the street. So it would clean, because this property won't want standing water either. And right now, this is the property that'll be damaged by it, not the neighbors, because this is a lower property.
Okay. I guess my next question, unless there's any other questions, we go. My next question kind of ties into what you were saying earlier. So there has been has there been any traffic studies at all along Maple at this point? Or will that be done as part of the process in deciding the development?
So there are no traffic studies that have been done. Typically, traffic studies don't happen unless staff is directed to the city council. This process will also have to go through the plating process, which basically makes it a lot and block. Part of that is the drainage plan, which will be required through the process. Will identify if and where detention would be. All stormwater generated from this property has to be collected on the property and put into the system. Any improvements to people could be determined at that time, whether or not there should be decel lanes. If or how many access points, likely just one, just based on the frontage of it and its proximity to other access points. So simple answer is no, traffic study have not been done. They typically are not done, especially when it's on an arterial road that's 4-lane, has turn lanes. Typically that just is not anything that goes on given the circumstances that this property is at with the large intersection in Maple and Bridge, and it's improved essentially to its largest size that the city's going to do.
We have a question from Grace Coyne. Just to clarify, this would alleviate the neighbors' runoff as well.
Possibly. Again, a drainage study would have to be done as part of the plating process. Any stormwater generated from this site cannot be put onto neighboring sites. It all has to be collected internally. There are times where the plating of property like this actually does improve overall drainage in the area. Right now, this property does not have any type of a drainage plan. As Kirk was alluding to, whatever the topography is on this site is what happens with drainage, and it's allowed to do that. So if there's any major drainage issues that actually could possibly be fixed through the plating process as this property develops in any way, shape, or form. Any type of development on the property would require plating, whether even if it's for additional single-family homes or 2-family homes or something in the future.
The one thing you can't do is if the neighboring property drains onto you, you can't just block it. You have to accept that water as it comes on.
I have one more question. I guess that kind of stems from the traffic study or street lights is I've noticed myself on Maple issues like turning out of the Target where that street light is. Is there any opportunity with this, if there were to be a traffic study done, to maybe even do some reconfiguring of the timing or retiming or anything like that included as part of this project, or is that completely other?
You want to address that?
We can work with traffic engineering. The fact that there is a traffic light at, I just call it Target, but the easternmost drive into Target actually helps when it comes to allowing for turnouts of the property because it does stop traffic on Maple. During the planning process, engineering public works do take a look at the street configuration and all the things related to traffic. And so if there's any improvements that are needed to Maple, they'll likely require an entrance to be across the street from the middle drive that's kind of in between those buildings because they don't like conflicting left turns. So you're looking at a straight across thing. If they need to have right in, right out access or anything, all of that would be determined during planning. So again, this is per land use, so a lot of that more technical stuff comes on a later date.
Sure. But so potentially out of this, you could get better signaling and better.
Possibly, yeah.
The traffic engineering department can look at it, they can change the timing that type of stuff to allow more gaps if they need to in certain areas and that type of thing.
Okay.
But that's something that the engineering, traffic engineering, city of Wichita.
Okay. Are there,
You know, we're considering 3 different zoning requests tonight, and the first 2 that we passed, we're not surrounded on 3 sides by residential homes. Why would,
Second. No.
why wouldn't the developer want to develop single-family dwellings in this narrow parcel of land?
The infill areas like this are difficult to make work for single family. Because he's in the business of making money. You know, he doesn't want to go put in a bunch of single family houses and lose money on it. A lot of times in these areas, you have duplex or multifamily or that type of thing, duplex, triplex, or which becomes an actual opportunity to make some money. It's just, it's the economics of it for an area like this.
So it could be any of these things. I mean, is it a secret? Like, what is this? Is it an apartment complex? Is it duplexes? I mean, what is it?
We don't have any zoning on it right now to decide what we can do with it.
So we're making a decision on.
land use, not on what gets placed, not on what gets built there for a profit, right? That way, yes.
I have a question to follow up to that. So Philip, you said that next to a single family home, like there's 20 homes that border this lot. So next to those 20 homes can only be a duplex? Only 35 feet high?
Well, even if it's a multifamily structure, it is limited to 35 feet.
So it could be a fourplex for 35 feet.
Correct. It doesn't matter the type of structure, just whatever structure goes in would have to be no greater than 35 feet.
Okay, and then Kurt, what is the width of that lot?
Along.
Can you put
It- it's-
35 feet and then put a 3 or 4 story apartment building in the middle of it?
The lot is 330 on the front and then it goes 660 deep.
So 330.
So we have multiple
How much-
structures. and what you're doing.
How much land does it take to put a duplex or triplex or fourplex? How many feet from the property line?
So, I mean, whatever the setback, like you can put a multifamily building at the compatibility setback, and in this one, your compatibility setback would probably be 25 feet.
So 25 feet plus a duplex, how many feet does a duplex or the building and the driveway take? How many feet does that take? I'm subtracting, to see how much left is in the middle.
And I understand, and there's a lot of different sizes out there is the thing. You may have not as deep, but wider or longer and narrower.
Okay, let me reframe that. On the ones
Okay.
you have built, how deep are they?
We've had some that are like, the structure may be 75 feet deep. Others that may be 45 feet deep. If
Okay,
it's 45 deep, then it's gonna be probably
so
a
you
similar
said,
width.
so if it's 45 deep, and you got 20-foot setback, that's 65. 65 to 65, that's 130, so you have 200 feet in the middle, you could put a multi-story building. Is that correct?
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay,
Still gotta have a parking.
Right.
could be a parking.
You still have to have
We got
parking.
parking there. somewhere.
Park, yeah, it could be parking,
Yeah.
Right.
but they could build a building to park next to the side or something. Yeah, okay.
And then as Philip was talking about on the compatibility setback, you have to go back so far before you can go higher. So you're back to you have to be in the middle for that to happen.
And you meant for the middle, right, 6.5, okay.
And, you know, in single family houses can only go 35 feet.
Right,
Yeah.
right, 2-story. And
35.
there's 2-story houses around there. Yeah.
But you can go 35, just like the duplex can go 35, or
Right,
any of these can go 35. We're not asking to go.
but in the middle, you could go 45.
It depends. Yeah.
Is the height compatibility is within 50 feet, you have to be 35 feet tall. And you only get 1 foot of height for every 3 more feet in. So at 53 feet, you can do 36 feet. At 56 feet, you can do 37 feet. So
3-1
depends
ratio.
on,
Okay.
just depends on what the map can show.
It depends on what though?
what the math is, it's a 3-to-1 ratio for height,
So you need 30 more feet to get 10 more feet going up.
yes.
I wouldn't anticipate anything over 35 feet.
You wouldn't anticipate anything over 35. Okay.
I don't know that you could.
So that would be, just to verify, that would be a 2-story building.
So it depends on how you build it.
Yeah.
I mean, you split levels and all kinds of different things you could do, so.
I think, what I struggle with is we approve this zoning change. And then you guys pass on this project, and then somebody else comes in to develop this land. We've approved it at MF18, which is, Philip, the lowest density multifamily
Right.
code, right? So it can't be ever an 8-story apartment complex, correct?
No, one with in MF18, you're limited to 45 feet in height maximum anyway. Even with the compatibility, you had enough space at the 3-to-1 ratio, you can never get above 45 feet. You could put a protective overlay on it to restrict it to 35 feet across the board. So that's something that's within the realm of your toolbox per se, to recommend a protective overlay that limits the height so that you don't get up to a 45-foot building. Yeah, so MF18 runs with the land. It would only allow 17.4 dwelling units an acre. Again, you have to park all of that, so what you're comes out to is probably somewhere in the middle. And then all of the regulations that are in the zoning code or any regulations put on the property by city council above and beyond the zoning code run with the lane for any future developer if this one doesn't come through.
Okay, so we could, and I'm just asking, I'm not saying we're gonna approve this. So we could approve this MF18 multifamily zoning request, but have a protective overlay that doesn't exceed 35 feet. And what other protective overlays could we place on this?
So you could restrict the density. And I can provide some guidance as to what we have in other zoning classifications regarding kind of secondary densities. You can require a taller screening fence. You can require additional landscaping. So for folks in the room, I know we're talking planning speak, and I apologize. The board hears these cases more than you guys do. So a protective overlay, what is a protective overlay? So you take your base restrictions of a zoning district, and a protective overlay is additional rules. A protective overlay can't give them more rights. It can't make the buildings taller. It can't reduce their parking. All it can do is be more restrictive. So what you hear us saying is possibly a restrictions to make the maximum height no taller than 35 feet. Possibly could make a screening fence taller. It could require additional landscaping above and beyond what the codes say. So that's what we mean by a protective overlay, or if it comes out as a PO, because we don't like syllables. That's what we're talking about, is just possibly additional rules that the city council can put on a property if they were to approve it and felt it was necessary based on the character of the area, feeling like those additional rules would make a development like this more compatible.
Okay, so right now for MF18, nothing over 35 feet, and then you can't exceed 74 units per acre.
It's 17.4.
17, sorry. It's a lot more sense.
Yep.
17 dwelling units per acre. So we could even say this protective overlay will you're only allowed 5. I mean, what number is there?
So if we go one zoning classification down to 2-family. So in the hierarchy of zoning classification, you have single family, your next one's 2-family, your next one's MF18. So essentially we're 3 up the tier for city. 2-family, if multifamily were to be allowed in 2-family residential, which takes a zoning action that would come before you, the maximum density in 2-family zoning would be 14.5.
Okay.
So that's kind of a standard, and where they get 14.5, this is a lot of technical stuff, and I'm a nerd. in two-family based on minimum lot size and stuff like that, if you were to do a standard development with an individual duplex on each lot, and it meets the minimum lot size, you would get 14 and a half dwelling units an acre. So that's where they get that number. That's kind of a standard level of density or tier of density in the zoning code. You truly could pick any number you want. But from a practical standpoint of what do we see allowable within developments per the zoning code, 14 and a half is kind of the next tier down.
Okay, what about single family? How many units? I'm really
That
testing
one,
you right now.
that one is totally based on lot area. Single family residential has a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet per lot. And so that one, you're just based on lot size. Because it's single family, you only have one dwelling unit per lot. There's no density number to it. It's all just based on your minimum lot size and how big your property is.
Okay. So two family, 14 and a half units per acre, multifamily, 17 units per acre. On a 5 acre lot,
This one's 7.
7.
I'm sorry.
What?
No, 5. I'm sorry. It's only 5 acres. I do earn my. Giving away land here. You get an acre, you get an acre.
Before we move on to public commentary, I just want to say, Kirk, thank you for being here initially. I know you haven't even made plans yet because like you said, you want to see if this gets approved or not. So I think although it creates a little bit of confusion on the public's end on what are they getting, what are we putting there? It gives us as an advisory board, the ability to think more long-term, like what if you walk away from this deal and then now we're stuck with a multifamily development? So that gives us, I think, a better understanding on we're not approving you, we're approving the use of this land.
Right.
So thank you.
Stacy, did you have a question?
So we're talking about the structure, but what if, okay, so we can approve, we approve that, and then what if you go, okay, we're gonna build this and it's gonna be low income? Yeah. We don't know. It could be anything.
You could build low-income single family housing on it today without having this meeting. And it's. The plan is not low income, but I think there's some hoops you have to jump through also. to get
It's back
low income.
to the idea, I know we're talking about how to use the land, I understand that. But these people are here to say, well, we wanna know what's gonna be in our neighborhood. We wanna know what it was gonna look like. We wanna know what's gonna be here or there, and that seems to make a difference in approving something. I know it's, okay, we can look beyond this and say, okay, they don't exist. And we just wanna approve how this land can be used. But that's difficult to do when you do have somebody who's before you who has, I feel an idea, because these people feel there's an idea in their neighborhood that's happening and they want to have some say in it. And that makes it more difficult to actually say, I'm ready to approve this.
I've seen this before. It's been 8 years on DAB. And we get lots of planning cases from other districts. And it's not uncommon to have overlays put over a zoning. So 35-foot restriction, fencing, pitched roofs. Sometimes it has to have a pitched roof to it, not a flat roof. So I think how you could protect the homeowners is by putting overlays on the property. How that comes to the city council then is it will say that staff recommends approval. You can approve it. Metropolitan, MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Commission recommends whatever they recommend. And the district advisory board recommends this, and that might be approval with protective overlays, this, and this. So, and then the city council can pick one. And in reality, usually the person in the district, which would be me, would make a motion to pick one of those three. So, just a minute, Roger, just a minute. You wanted to talk last.
No, I'm just serious. You guys can do anything you want to.
It's like, yeah, we can't.
Philip, given the residential to the north of Maple, school to the south, the commercial to the south and the west, would this area, this neighborhood, would it be qualified would mixed use be an accurate use of the terminology for this area?
Not necessarily. Mixed use is typically where, I think a good example of better idea of mixed use would be like 37th and Ridge. Because you do have you have different levels of housing densities, you have commercial, you have different types of commercial. Sometimes that's mixed between, again, the new Avante development is commercial and apartments all within the same area. That's more, this is like, you've got residential and it's very contiguous. And then you have your commercial on the other side. So not necessarily mixed use.
Is it also fair to say that it's not unprecedented for single family to be rezoned as multifamily in your experience?
In my experience, in a location like this is a logical request. Is
And it's
totally based on the fact that Maple and Ridge is such a highly commercialized intersection. I know this property is separate from it, but you do also have commercial right across the street. Doesn't necessarily mean commercial is appropriate for this property, but again, you have momentum in a sense. You have existing land uses that essentially promote a little bit higher intensity. I also see like the economics when it comes to, you have 5 acres, what do you do with 5 acres? You're probably getting 6 to 8 individual lots, whether for single family or duplex, if it were to go that way. Multifamily as one larger piece of land where you probably have an island with parking around it, again, seems a logical, reasonable request from a professional point of view when I see what's been done in other parts of the city.
So to build on that, when your department issues your recommendation to this advisory board, are you vetting it through the same, like the golden rule structure that the MAPC would be?
Yep, so the very last page, our very last written pages, the report have the findings. There are the 9 golden standards that we look at. The 9th one is professional staff, so you'll see 8 that are listed. One of the ones we really base it off of is the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is guidelines, but in this case, it is calling for higher intensity usage. So when that comprehensive plan is developed and planning staff can study the entire city and study development patterns based on existing uses at the time when the comprehensive plan was made, they thought it was logical that higher intensity uses might bridge across Maple with a 5-acre piece of property that got developed around by the city and was a leftover single piece of land.
Thank you. Philip, do comprehensive plans change or once it's set?
They do get updated,
How often is that?
depending on when we get funding. I will say we have funding for next year to update the land use map. That's the map that's in here. We've been funding, like, it has been probably 10 years since, don't quote me on that. Our land use map within the comprehensive plan, not necessarily the text of the comprehensive plan, but identifying possible appropriate land uses on certain areas from a visual perspective is going to be starting to look at getting updated next year.
So one last question on comprehensive plan, I think just to make everybody understand, not sure if the council knows. On Socorro Street, there's houses 2 to 3 acres right next to it. That's a comprehensive plan. And you said it's heavily industrialized area, which is right. So what if those houses on Socorro, 2 to 3 acres, get an apartment on each one of them, future, then that could change to an industrial area.
I would say the current comprehensive plan didn't identify it. It probably wouldn't, just because there's a number of different factors that go in. Keeping in mind, as you're going farther west, you're going much farther into the very established single family area. Versus this has the school and the commercial across the street and essentially kitty corner to the southeast, a very large commercial area. So there's a lot of different factors that go into how to identify. And again, comprehensive plans are guidelines. There's many cases that we do multiple times a year where what the comprehensive plan says versus what's being asked for don't necessarily mesh up. And that's where we have to drill down to other locational guidelines and other reasons whether or not a case is appropriate or not.
And for future, just, because I own property there. If it becomes commercial land, we could essentially lose our houses because of comprehensive plan changes.
I know we're off topic. I have a quick answer and then we'll go. So
Last one.
what that classification does, it doesn't classify, it doesn't rezone your property. It's a suggestion for how, if properties are redeveloped, how should those be redeveloped? So it doesn't necessarily say your land is automatically commercial and this land is automatically ready for multifamily. It's a suggestion for if redevelopment should happen, what could be an appropriate use? Again, it's all just guidelines and suggestions.
Okay.
I do have one. Kurt, and this is a question for you, and it may be an unfair question, but I'll ask it for my own clarification. When this land was purchased, was the vision to develop under the current zoning? That the premise of it, or was this land purchased under the intent of modification?
I'm not the guy that purchased it, so I can't speak for him. But I'm pretty sure it was probably to go to a higher density than single family.
There he is. I have another question. This is my last, I think. What's the size of the sewer line that runs along Maple? Over there, do you know? I was trying to look it up on the GIS, but couldn't.
I'm not sure about the size of the sewer.
I asked the size of the sewer main.
I think it's a main out there, like a larger main.
Okay,
Yeah, there's not gonna be any issue with utilities.
okay. Is there any more questions from the board?
I have one more question, I'm sorry. Philip, this one's for you again. So with a protective overlay, I know we have some adherence to character of the neighborhood. Can we add a protective overlay that says something along the lines of must be bricked on 3 sides or 2 sides or 1 side? Can we add that amount of detail on character of the neighborhood?
You can, it can be pretty hard to be defensible on like exterior treatment of the. You typically how protective overlays go when it comes to architectural character is more general regarding like must be similar to the existing residences in the area, must have a residential character with hip or gable roof. Like something to that effect, a little bit more general versus like you have to have brick. You could, like that's not out of the question. A lot of the commercial architectural controls get down to texture and building material similarity. So it's not out of the question. Typically, though, they're generally more general regarding just residential character.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay. No more questions from the board, so we're gonna move on to the public comment period. So again,
Lamont's gonna keep time.
Okay, can I have one question about the traffic?
You're gonna be first.
But this isn't on it.
No, you're gonna be first. You can ask anything you want, 3 minutes. But Lamont's gonna keep time 3 minutes. He'll give a 30-second warning. You'll hear him take 30 seconds. At 3 minutes, he'll cut you off hard. Okay? If you repeat yourself, chair will cut you off. So don't feel offended. Just a time thing. We don't need to keep repeating, so. You're gonna be first.
question, which whenever they're getting to the question is that for the thing.
Go through all the public comment and then give him time to address questions and things.
We can do that. We can go through all the public comment, then we can give Kirk Miller time to answer any questions. So that'd be fine too. Addressing questions. That might be more efficient.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna start up here. What information do you need from them?
Please state your full name and your address. Okay, my name is Ann Barr, B-A-H-R.
You can just stay, you can stay there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, she needs to come to the podium.
Oh, because okay.
Okay.
Ann Barr, and your address?
7734 West Harmony Street. Thank you for this opportunity. To be honest, until a couple weeks ago, I have never heard of the District Advisory Board of Los Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. I don't know if the members are paid or if they're volunteers, but I thank you for your service, as I have learned that you have an important job and that affects so many people with every decision you make. I love Wichita, Kansas. Its culture, environment, opportunities to experiencing bigger city events to a small town feel. My husband and I are both from small towns and they settled here 44 years ago and living in our present home on Harmony Street for 32 of those years. When we moved to the Eagles home, there was a wheat field from Maple Street to Kellogg. Since then, Maple Street went from a 1-lane to 2-lane and businesses such as Target, Lowe's, and so many others replaced the fields. I understand that's necessary to meet the needs of the city. A number of years ago, the city decided that Glen Eagle Street would be a great way for the bikers to travel through the city. So they established a bike path on the street. I wonder why they chose Glen Eagles for the bike path. Maybe due to it being a quiet street and safe for bikers. The Glen Eagles Ashley Park neighborhood is a great place to raise a family. A quiet neighborhood, kids could ride their bikes up to the park or go get a drink at Sonic, and just a lot of camaraderie. We had a neighborhood babysitting co-op. Even now, our street is getting together this Saturday for a gathering, serving soups and stews and spending the evening together. This was planned well before the rezoning notice. Again, I love Wichita. We have 2 sons that we would love for us to relocate to Kansas City area. We would love to be near them, but we both believe that Wichita is the best city to retire in. I truly believe that I can drive when I'm 90 years old because the city is so easy to get around in. We could live here in Harmony Street for the rest of our lives. Okay, I'm a walker, and we have many walkers in our neighborhood of all ages, kids going to and from school, dog walkers, and others getting their daily exercise. Such a great opportunity waiting right out our front door. My fear is that we're going to lose this opportunity when the traffic increases on Glen Eagles, which I'd like to say, because that is a cut through. There's so many people that go through Glen Eagles now, and it will happen with the people that live in
30
the
seconds.
rezoning. 30 seconds
Yes,
left.
ma'am.
Okay, I love Wichita. We need to keep the well-established, quiet neighborhoods. They keep our cities strong.
Keep the plan right now.
Yeah, we know. My name is Tom Berry. My wife Kate and I have lived in 7716 Harmony Court for 39 years. We purchased that property new in 1985. We raised our 3 children there. I'm here tonight to ask you to deny the rezoning of the property in question to multifamily. While there are many reasons to deny this, I'm focused on just one right now, and that is the traffic issue as it relates to the schools in the neighborhood or in the area. We have 6 schools that are in the neighborhood. A lot of the kids that go to those schools walk our neighborhood streets to get to them. Denton, Westwood, St. Francis of Assisi, Wilbur, Bishop Carroll, and Northwest High are all walkable distance from our house. If we accept this proposed change, if you look at this map, you'll see that the only access for the people coming in and out of that development is going to be onto Maple Street. I know we've talked a lot about density tonight and aspects in terms of number of cars, but making a couple of assumptions, we could have up to 150 additional cars wanting to exit onto Maple Street, and possibly another 50 to 60 kids wanting to walk on Maple Street or walk down Glen Eagle Street or walk down Ashley. And that increase in vehicle and pedestrian traffic will endanger our kids, some of them. Here's why. Glen Eagles does not have sidewalks, which means kids, walkers, bicyclists, skateboarders, all those people move about the neighborhood on the streets. as the previous lady indicated, the neighborhood street of Glen Eagles is used as a shortcut for a lot of people going north out of our neighborhood. So more traffic on Glen Eagles just means more pedestrians, cyclists, skateboarders in danger. Also, a lot of these people that drive through the neighborhood are not members of the neighborhood. And people who don't live in the neighborhood oftentimes don't drive like they should in the neighborhood.
30 seconds.
Anybody that leaves that development is going to need to make 4 right-hand turns if they want to go east on Maple Street, because turning east onto Maple out of that driveway of whatever is built there is going to be very difficult during high traffic hours. So they're going to be running 4 right-hand turns, which runs them right back through Glen Eagles and Ashley Park, so that they can access the light at Ashley and Maple.
So that it's not.
Thank you.
My name is John Barr. I live at 7734 Harmony Street in Wichita. Lived there for 32 years. And my wife is the presenter tonight. As stated, we've got a lot of folks that travel by bike or pedestrian down that street. They're experiencing more and more traffic all the time. And since this has come up, I've started talking to some of the parents that walk down that way. And after I told them about this proposed project, they're very, very upset. Very upset. They said they think the danger factor is going to go up and up and up. Along with that, you mentioned the bike path in there. There's also buses for 2 of the 5 schools in the area that run up and down that street, along with the normal traffic and, excuse me, and then all the normal walkers, joggers, dog walkers, all that stuff. There's quite a congestion of folks out there on the street. And like I said, they're all out there on the street, and it's not just Benton that's going to be impacted. There's a string of 5 schools right there that kind of either are on Glen Eagles or branch off and go up to 2nd Street, the furthest one north being St. Francis of Assisi. All of those schools, all that traffic, all those kids, they're going to get impacted by this increase in traffic. I'm going to cut this short. One thing too, when you're going down Glen Eagles, most of the houses have 2-car garages. Where are those extra cars going? Some of them are going out on the street. Glen Eagles also serpentines around, like a lot of residential areas do. That creates blind spots. So that's danger and danger and danger right there. I'm not going to go into what's going on Ashley Park or on Harmony Street, the North Street or to the East Street, because there's similar issues there. They've got some unique ones, but I don't think they're nearly as bad as what we've got going on Glen Eagles right now. That is the worst spot that I'm going to talk about. And let's keep going north up towards 2nd Street. At that point, the volume switches over for kids going to those other schools and the traffic associated with Levy, Wilbur, Bishop Carroll, and to St. Francis of Assisi. At 2nd Street, some of that traffic is going to go west, and it's going to go by Levy. Excuse me, it's going to go by Wilbur. I invite you to go to Wilbur and see the congestion. Okay?
Yeah.
It's so bad. A lot of parents are now saying, I want to meet my kid up at the hamburger joints north on Tyler. And now McDonald's has closed between 3 and 4 o'clock because there's so many loitering kids. They're afraid of the liability issues. Okay. Let's go back to the why. Then some of that traffic then also goes on past Levy. Okay. Thank you very much.
Before our next speaker, I do want to reiterate, please no repeating topics. So we've kind of hit on traffic in the schools and access quite a bit. So if you, unless you have a completely different point, we're going to kind of call that topic considered.
My name's Everett Price, 7712 Harmony Court. Our home is within the 200-foot area of the property asking to rezone. I attended a neighborhood meeting at 7729 Harmony Wednesday, October 2nd at 6:30. This meeting was well attended by 80+ neighbors adjacent to and surrounding the property asking to rezone. Everyone had a chance to voice their opinions with J.D. Johnson, District 5 Councilman, and Brett Miller, the developer. Many questions were asked from the homeowners in an orderly manner. It was unfortunate that the questions asked to Brett Miller gave our neighborhood no reasonable answers for making a decision. In fact, it made it very easy because of the vague answers given to vote no to rezoning. Some questions were, what will these apartments look like? His response was, we didn't know. We haven't built any apartments to date, and we have only built duplexes. Brent asked to bring pictures of the structures he was proposing to build, and he didn't bring anything for neighboring homeowners to see. As a district advisory board, how could you expect a reasonable neighborhood to rezone a property with 20 homes adjacent to and many surrounding to consider rezoning this property? In reviewing property developments built and owned by Brent Miller's company, all are duplexes and all are single family zoning, SF5 and SF20. It seems to me if they were to build a development similar to the model their company currently uses, there is absolutely no need to rezone. Our neighborhood doesn't want to gamble on the vague replies given to our neighborhood meeting attended by Brett Miller and J.D. Johnson. So please consider our request to not rezone, and thank you for your time.
So rezoning of the Maple Street, from SF5 to, MF18 is incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods of Glen Eagle and Ashley Park. The proposed 3-story apartment complex, which is what Mr. Miller informed us was his plan last week when we met, which was also to build to the fullest capacity that he will be allowed to build. So that is not compatible with, the 20 adjacent homes, of which I am one. My entire backyard spans that space, as well as the hundreds of individuals, and some of them are here today that expand beyond that. It will definitely impact our area. So the developer has verbalized, right, to the current residents that his plan is to develop to the highest density afforded for the 5 acres if allowed to rezone to MF18, with the plan to erect as tall a building as he possibly can in that area. So the plan to do 3-story apartment if that's allowed. Mr. Miller's described a plan for that apartment building with, he verbalized the plan was to charge $2,000 a month for these apartments. I took a tour of the properties that he owns, the duplexes that are 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a 2-car garage. I took a tour of the area, spoke with residents who informed that their current rent is $2,100. Not sure how a 3-story apartment building with no garages is going to yield him $2,000 a month in rent, which is what he proposed the rent for these properties would be. So the rest of my time, I would like to just briefly provide a summary of the implications of increasing zoning density as reported by various journals and that are peer-reviewed. So I'm just going to start listing some things off until I run out of time. Adding zoning density encourages existing neighborhoods to be torn down one house at a time. Density attracts renters and repels homeowners. Adding zoning density to residential neighborhoods encourages absentee owners to replace homeowners, destabilizing neighborhoods. And as a result, properties are allowed to deteriorate. I moved into the area about a year and a half ago. And I was told and had seen since that properties don't come available very often. Thank you. Properties don't become available very often. Currently, right now, we have more houses for sale in the area because of the proposed dwelling that is alarming to all of us. I would say that increasing a neighborhood's density is shown to decrease personal interaction and neighborhood involvement. Studies have demonstrated that high density build environments influence the distribution of social resources, resulting in negative impact on interpersonal relationships. And in general, planners and developers feel good about increasing density. Residents do not.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of repeat something, so.
Don't, please don't repeat.
No, I'm only gonna use my 3 minutes. I just want to clarify from what my research has shown. They talked about there being 150 cars coming out of this place. A Harvard University study showed that there's like 7 entries and exits for each apartment in a complex. So if this complex has 80 apartments, 7 times 80 is 560 trips in and out of that apartment complex. That's not even practical. Right now, I myself turn right off of Glen Eagles and I go down past the school, Benton Elementary out to Kellogg. I go all the way to Tyler and turn around and come back to go west or to go east. So I'm assuming that that's what those people in the apartment complex is gonna do. They're gonna turn right, they're gonna come up Glen Eagles, or they're gonna go down to the school and turn left. It's just too much traffic. I don't understand the density thing. We're already too dense with everything at the Maple and Ridge. We have too many cars already.
Yep.
Thank you. Are you? Okay.
My name's Michelle Brown and I live at the court closest to Maple, the cul-de-sac off Glen Eagles. So in the beginning of the school year 22-23, I have 6 kids who live across the street from my house. The second to youngest boy, and many of you know this story, had been rewarded for a job well done. He wanted to ride his bike to school to St. Francis. So the parents okayed it. He went north through the neighborhood. He took the crosswalk at Red Barn and Central. The light was flashing. He was in the crosswalk, got hit by a car, flew up, landed in Central. This is a mile from where we're talking about putting these apartments. Okay, he lived, thank God. He suffered a severe traumatic brain injury. Forever changed his family, his siblings. His mother had to quit her job. They spent weeks, if not months, at St. Francis Hospital before going to Nebraska for rehab for this traumatic brain injury. Finally, they could come to Kansas City. That was a little less intense. Nathan got to come home before the end of his 5th grade year, but he finished 5th grade at Benton Elementary and didn't return to St. Francis until 6th grade, which was just this past August. So these things happen with traffic. We're good. Everybody's talked about it, but this is a different story. Last week, in front of Lawrence Elementary at Maple and West, 1 mile away, a 12-year-old girl was hit at 6:40 in the morning walking to school. Critical injuries to her legs and abdomen. This is not somewhere else in town. This is in our neighborhood. I want you to think in your heart of hearts, if your kids or grandkids lived in my neighborhood, would you approve this development application? I think if you're honest with yourself, the answer is probably no. Thank you for your.
Yours too?
No, she said enough.
Brian Stewart, 229 South Ashland Park. Yes, to you. Sorry. Okay. All right, mine's gonna be short and sweet, and I'm gonna talk to y'all about property value. As we all know, and I'm gonna talk about the selling of a house in this neighborhood now. I know Daryl and Tracy are trying to sell theirs. First question they get asked, what's going in behind it? Okay, how many of the board members have an apartment complex behind their house? Any of you? Okay. No, okay. I asked the developer while we were there, and somebody brought it up earlier. You've developed duplexes and they're pretty nice. I looked them up. They're all right. And I know it's gonna get developed back there at some point in time. We had to get rid of the ponies and the dogs and the goats and everything else that were back there before. But they're gonna develop this thing, put it in, make them put duplexes in it at worst, okay? If they put duplexes in, it cuts the traffic down some. You know they're gonna have something back there, right? But make them put duplexes in there. That's what they're good at. They have never built an apartment complex. They have never managed an apartment complex. They have no clue what they're getting into. I live 229 South Ashley Park. I've got the biggest stretch of ground. I've got 208 feet that run across the side of that. And the drainage, we have a pond every year, but not this year. But most years, we have a pond. John, his house was flooded by this. It came right into his basement. I can tell you all I want, but it's nice and flat, it's not. So keep that in mind as well. I look for you guys to save us. I mean, I've lived there 32 years myself. And we raised our kids and I love the neighborhood. I won't if we put something back there that's not, decent enough to have good people in it. Over here, and I asked the developer too, over here on Holland Drive, there's a big lot for sale. Great big lot for sale. Guess what's backed up to it? Multifamily housing. Why didn't they go there? Because they thought they would make more money putting this in a residential neighborhood that had $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses. It looks good for them, looks bad for us. I'm asking you guys, please, lay it down, lay it, what you call a PO? Okay, an overlay. Put an overlay on. Don't let them do this to us, please. Make them be single family, make them be duplexes, and make them be decent ones, okay? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. You need to go. Good job.
Sounds.
Chiefs are up 10-7.
I'll be quick. No. I'm Julie Crawford and I'm in block 1, lot 1 of South Ashley Park Court. So my house is right at the traffic light. First, I have an easy question for Mr. Miller. Are you related to the Brent Miller who spoke to us, and if so, how? The relation. Okay. So you're the agent, he's the builder.
Yes.
Okay. Just right quick, when we're talking about the drainage, I want to remind anybody. Okay, I moved in 96, and in 98 there was the Halloween flood. And it just totally clobbered our entire cul-de-sac, and the area extended too, but our cul-de-sac was just swimming. And I just want you to, or whoever, to consider, like, don't look at this for the last 3, 5 to 10 years. Look at the last, going at least to 98 and prior. When you make plans about the water and what could happen. I used to be an insurance agent. And you always have to look at the worst case scenario, and I want you to do that with this. Thank you.
John motion, 225, Joe motion, John Sharon. 225 Ashley Park. I'll just make it short and sweet. We moved in here to retire. We didn't move here to rent an apartment. And we back up to this mess, okay? And they say they're gonna build this or build that. What's gonna keep them from building basement apartments and then go 2-story above that? Nobody's answered that question. Okay, property values, we want to touch on that. That's all I'm gonna say, is just, we didn't ask for it when we bought in here, and we don't like it.
John, your wall's better.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm Karen Powell. I'm at 218 South Ashley Park, the block just north of Maple. I'm adamantly opposed to the rezoning. I have been in Ashley Park for 24 years. I think that the board should take a really hard look at the golden rules that govern the decision-making process here, that you can consider the surrounding property property zoning, land uses, general condition, and the structure of the surrounding properties. You are required to consider whether the uses allowed in the proposed development can be good neighbors to the existing development, and it's a subjective question. You are required to make an assessment of the relative gain to public health, safety, and welfare as compared to the loss of value and hardship imposed on an applicant. To give you a feel for the neighborhood, I have provided you with some pictures at your desk. These are the pictures that I provided of our neighborhood. I won't go through them because of time factors, but please feel free. They're described on there with some verbiage, some text as to what they are, and the community. They show that we have, it gives you a feel for our community, and the fact that, think about, does an apartment complex really fit in this area? It's a park-like atmosphere. The pictures give you a feel for the architectural work in the area, and showing our community cohesiveness in our high-quality neighborhood. The last photo in that set of photos shows the meeting that we had with Councilman Johnston and the Glen Eagles neighborhood, and how concerned they were. We are very concerned, and I would reiterate all the concerns that people spoke before me, but I know that there is a possibility that protective overlay would come about. Again, I'm adamantly opposed, especially because of the speculation that the developer has. There's no speculation on his loss. His loss is single-family homes. He can build single-family homes there. He can build that. I mean, that's a given. And it's a high-dollar neighborhood. I mean, compared to bare bones construction apartments, but he could make money. It's just that he wants to maximize his profits there, and it's speculation. The protective overlay conditions that I suggested were 2 stories maximum, 35-foot restriction all the way across there. I have a list of the protective overlay conditions. I would ask you also to, I would submit that to you. I'd also to consider that the planner has in recommendation 5, denial could be regarded as a loss of economic opportunity for the applicant. The developer hasn't showed you any loss of economic opportunity. And we have talked about our homes and how the property values will go down. So I would adamantly ask that you deny the request.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Powell. I happen to live at the same address she does. You know, I thought I would approach this from a different point of view tonight. I'm going to talk about what is it like to live in the Ashley Park neighborhood with the covenants that are provided for those that live in that area. And why do we still live there? The general purpose of the covenants we have in our neighborhood tells us that the property should be developed and maintained as a single-family residential area of high quality, value, desirability, and attractiveness. A quick review of some of the individual covenants will show there are limitations on improvements. There's architectural controls. There's a requirement to plant and maintain your yard, lawns, trees, shrubbery, etc. There's a mandate there that you will keep your lots in good repair and you'll perform annual seeding, sodding, mowing, and fertilization as needed. The size of the lots is controlled within the covenants. The size square footage of the homes is controlled within the covenants. We don't allow any recreational vehicles, trailer houses, RVs, things like that to be parked in the driveway for more than 48 hours. And there's covenants that restrict any of those type of vehicles being used as permanent housing for long-term house guests. There's no commercial business allowed within the covenants of Ashley Park. There's limitations on signage. What kind of signs can you poke in your front yard other than for sale signs with homes, which there's several of those nowadays, and then the political signs we see every couple of years. No accumulation of trash, refuse, lumber, and metals is allowed. There's sightline restrictions on fencing, etc. There's also noise restrictions. We don't allow any offensive activity on lots or in commons areas. All of the lots are owner occupied with no rentals or leases of any kind allowed through the covenants. Any changes to that lot or the residences on those lots must go through and be approved by our agricultural committee. We also have setback restrictions. In summary, I really do, honestly, I also oppose the rezoning changes that's been requested here previously. And I agree with the previous specter's comments with regard to the implementation of some protective overlays. To hit a couple more of those. 30 seconds. Okay. Along with the 35-foot height restriction on structures, maybe also add a total combination or a unit count of no more than 50. Certain roof line restrictions for hip and height restrictions on the roofs themselves, not flat line. Brick walls, interior setbacks, covered trash containers, 40% existing trees to remain in the landscaping area that was just recently purchased and zoning request is in for, etc. I thank you for your time.
You're not going? You're not saying?
Sorry. I was being quicker than sorry. I thought it was really down. Tracy Covington, 217 South Ashland Park.
And it's for sale. I'll note that in the minutes. It went on the market, lived there 31 years and never wanted to move. And we put our house on the market when this guy bought that to develop it. So we're sad about that because we have great neighbors and we won't miss it. We would love for that area to stay single family homes. Okay, we'd love for that zoning. But we also understand from the things that we heard, it's probably not going to, and there's going to be some things built back there, and we understand that. I do just want to point out something that hasn't been pointed out as far as the walking and that sort of thing. On the south side of Maple, that are all the entrances to Target. So the kids that are walking to school, the foot traffic has to stay to the north side. Just it's the safer side to get to Benton at this point. So it's not just, hey, get on the other side of the street kind of thing. That's even a greater safety issue over there. So it's not apples to apples. The overlays, I would just really ask you to consider to have the lighting in the parking lot to the inside of the apartment complex. That would keep some of the noise down, keep the lights from blaring in all of our, in our homes, on our properties. The trees remain at the north end of that property, please. And I don't know if the Brett Miller is associated with the Steve Miller.
You guys are a little bit hard to find. So Steve Miller, you can look this guy up. So he's had all kinds of problems on the east side, building some stuff. And he didn't do what he needed to take care of the ground underneath it. And so there's all kinds of cracks. People are having problems over there with their property. And I'm telling you, there was a greenhouse on that property and it had a concrete basement. And when that got torn down, one of the owners after that threw a whole bunch of stuff in there. There's stoves in there, there's trees underneath that ground in the middle of the property. So if you let apartments be built on that, they're gonna have some major problems. And especially if these guys don't do their due diligence and take care of stuff and they just build on top. They probably don't know that that stuff is down there at this point. But if you put a parking lot in the middle, then you're, you know, if it's gonna happen, then it's not going to happen to the residences. So I'm really disappointed. You know, we built because we understood what the zoning was. And so it's really disheartening that these can be rezoned to make other people money. And we're not looking to make money on it, but he was very clear. He said, I will build as many as they let me. He was not interested in working with the neighborhood to say, hey, what can we do? Like, let's make this a win-win for both sides. We're not stupid. We know there's something gonna go back there. But they haven't maintained it since they took property or took ownership of it. They won't mow it. They finally did right before this meeting. So looks good for you guys to drive by, but it hasn't been mowed. And so, thank you. I'm out of time for 30 seconds. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear 30 seconds. Sorry. Thanks.
As she was just sharing. I'll try to keep it brief with references. Understand you've had a lot of references already on some of these others. The request is keep it a single family. With respect to what Bill was sharing earlier, the buffering of this zone, if you keep it a single family, that will already allow another handful of houses or whatever to be built there. And it won't be an egregious amount of volume of people coming into that area and all of a sudden trying to figure out how we're gonna live with standard is 6 feet high fences. Well, James and I have a fence in between our two houses. It's 6 feet. It's 2 single family dwelling homes. We don't need to have apartments or whatever else back there in the background. And again, as has been shared previously, it's really disconcerting when the agent and or anybody who does show up to represent this in our area. And I do appreciate you attending tonight and or Brent showing up the other night. But it's really disconcerting to not have any idea as to what it's really gonna be. It's not a big mystery, but you won't share what you would like to do other than as many as possible in this space. The follow-on piece really just ties into the protective overlay as much as you can. Any protective overlays as possible that will help us maintain the privacy of our own homes. And, look, we'll be good neighbors. We were good neighbors to the folks that were living back there previously. But at the same time, we know I've been a renter before. I didn't always respect who was living right next door to me. I know what that's like. And I feel like I'm a pretty respectful person overall. But you start putting another large group of people in that space, well, in every group of people, every group of 10 people, there's a couple of folks who aren't always going to be all that concerned about taking care of their own trash, watching out for other people in the area, all the concerns have been raised for safety and everything else. So thank you for your time. Please decline on approving this.
Just real quick, as you guys come up, I'm trying not to interrupt your train of thought with the 30-second. So if you look over here so I can flash this up so you can keep continuity, that's.
Hi, my name is Art Arias. Art, Jackie, and my wife, we lived there 30 years at 214 North Ashley Park. The house was new We're on the very north end. I'm glad we're not actually back where this is going in, but we're concerned about the crime. There's, within a block of our house is fourplexes all along Ridge Road. I can tell you there's been a murder over there. In our end on our side, there's been a break-in to a house. There's been a car stolen, and there's been several cars entered. I had a company car that was entered, I had another company car that was attempted. And by the time the police was called by a neighbor, the guy was caught, lived over there in the low income area. And my wife's car got broken into, company car. And a lot of stuff was taken out of her car. And we're concerned about the crime. I'm ex-law enforcement. I hate to say it, but I have cameras all around my house. So I hate to say that that's something you have to think about. So anyways, I don't want to talk about everything else that, and I agree, we don't want that in our area. Thank you.
Brad Swaringy. I live at 209 South SWELING. I live at 209 South Ashley Park. I'm one of the homeowners that backs up to it. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned, it took us 3 years. We moved in 1998. Took us 3 years to find a house. We looked in 2 neighborhoods, Glen Eagles and Ashley Park. That's how hard it was to get moved into this area. It's a great area. The developers who ever developed the 2 areas, which Jay Russell did at Ashley, I don't know who did Glen Eagles. They developed it so great that it's a good neighborhood. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned, it's so quiet, it's peaceful. It's like you're out in the country. You can hear a little bit of the noise off of Maple, but that's it. You put that much density there with that many cars, you know, I want you to vote no on the approval of the change. It's going to destroy both neighborhoods. And, you know, they said it's a buffer zone. What are they buffering us from? They're not buffering us from the commercial. It's all single homes. Why can't they keep it single homes? And the last resident was great. They had, like I said, they had lots of animals. Yeah, they were, it was working. And that's all I have to say. The noise level, it's quiet. It's just totally quiet. You can sit out and you don't hear nothing except maybe the birds and the squirrels. Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak, then I decided something hasn't been approached or asked that concerns me. I appreciate all the information you've given on the planning. And I did not understand the overlay until a couple of nights ago when a neighbor came around and I did sign the overlay a request sheet. I think that the overlay is important, but my biggest problem when I'm looking at the type of buildings that is allowed, we are single family right now, and they're wanting to go to multifamily 18. Well, in between those 2 listings is a twin home, a twin family 3. How much overlay does it have to get to go into that qualification? I mean, we're asking for qualifications on the overlay to reduce what they can do. So at what point does it become a twin family or 2 family 3? You haven't given me as any of the restrictions on a 2 family 3, so I don't know what that means. Can that be addressed?
So, real quick, something the board can actually do, the zoning code does allow you to recommend approval of a lesser zoning classification. So if they're asking for MF 18, you could simply recommend approval of 2 family TF3. That could also be accompanied by a protective overlay. 2 family is only a 35-foot height anyway. But if you wanted to have like architectural controls or other things like that, that is within the willpower,
So the overlays we're asking for almost fall into a two-family three. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the difference is if it stays MF18, they could do threeplex, fourplex, or larger structures. If you do two-family, you're restricted to just a duplex structure as your largest type of structure.
Okay, but that was my concern, is why don't we, if we can't do anything, we need to compromise, go at least with that.
Yeah.
And we can't, let's do the middle, okay? Thank you, appreciate it.
Are you next? Yeah,
Oh, I didn't plan on it.
it's okay. I'm just going down the line.
I just wanted somebody to bring a privacy, but I guess not.
Sir. Thanks, sorry, I'm just going down the line here.
Thanks.
No, 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 no.
As we're waiting for her to come up, I do want to thank all of you for coming out. I think it's important community engagement, so I just appreciate it. Yeah, I know. Appreciate you coming out, I really do.
Yeah, I felt you see, it's 77.99. I am here to vehemently oppose this. My backyard backs up. I actually have some trees and an open area where I can actually see the house back there. We moved in 1979, Glen Eagles was established. We moved in 87, so we've been there 37 years. And Ashley Park was just wheat fields and trees when we moved in, and was developed as single family homes like ours. And they've been great neighbors. So we've been very compatible during all of this, and we're working together as neighborhoods trying to do. I had a lot of my things have already been said, but anyhow, all of these are going to be rental property. Rentals are transient. They don't stay there. They don't care about their property. They're not a homeowner who is invested everything into this that you intend to retire, which I'm hoping I will, but I'm not so sure now. Also, this decreases our property value, and I know I hear stories that it doesn't, and I do not believe that. It decreases our quality of living with increased noise, traffic, and lighting. There's the increase of the turnover in population where people are moving out, moving in. And it is just not being a very good neighbor to me. There are already apartments all along Ridge Road, both sides, east and west. There are apartments to the south of us, over by southwest of Target, and there are multi-family. This was zoned by the original owners as a single family. Unfortunately, the people that lived here before us, their parents died and they owned it, so it went to court. That changed the whole dynamics of this from staying as a perpetual family, single family dwelling as it was intended to be. I have a little thing here. I looked up the role of government. There's an essential, at the end it says, essentially, government is to create order and stability within a society by making and upholding the rules for its people. The rules right now state that is a single family dwelling, and we would like to definitely keep it that way. Thank you for your time.
Are you going? Okay, okay, will you? You, sir? Are you gonna speak? Okay, sorry, it's hard to make eye contact. Anyone else from this row?
I was in that row. I got tired of sitting, so. I'm gonna be really brief. I'm a little different. Sir, I appreciate you mentioning how there's three
sides to this proposed development that they want to do. So I appreciate you noticing that at least. And ma'am, I appreciate you saying, yeah, the lack that we're getting from the developers last week at the home where we were at and here tonight scares frankly the hell out of me. You open the door can get wide open real fast and then anything can happen. So I appreciate you listening and looking at it. And I spoke to my brother-in-law this afternoon. My wife doesn't even know that. He's a developer. I asked him about that space and he said, something needs to go into it, but what they're proposing or asking for is not the right thing. So with that, I hope you do consideration for everybody here. We have grandkids and kids, and there's going to be a lot of traffic. I'm not going to repeat, but thank you for your time, and I hope you vote with your heart and your conscience. Okay.
I think we're moving into the back row chairs, sir. Okay. We're gonna move down this line, so.
We've been in Glen Eagles for 38 years. We built our house. I am the neighborhood block chairman of Prestwick. And when we built our house, we had to have certain roofs, certain so much brick, so much whatever. And it was all single dwelling before Ashley even came. We were so glad Ashley came. Great neighborhood next to us. Quietness is wonderful. I've tried to keep the block safe for 38 years as a block chairman. Every year we have a block party on our street. We try to talk to each other, communicate what's going on in the neighborhood. That will not happen with what's going on. It's a single dwelling area, and that's what we built in. And let's hope it stays that way. That's all I have to say. Pride in what we do in our neighborhood.
Kent Langlois, and I'm at the second house off Maple there on Glen Eagles. And thank you all for being here tonight, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I'd just like to say that I relied on the city's zoning code when I bought my property. You know, when I made my decision to purchase my home 15 years ago, I specifically looked at the zoning of this property to make my investment decision. And had it been zoned for commercial or multifamily, I would not have purchased my home. And looking around the room tonight, I have to assume that a lot of other people also are not going to want to purchase my home if there's a multi or commercial property in my backyard. So I just like to say that I have witnessed a lot of accidents on this corner. In fact, my neighbor rear-ended my wife on this corner. Also, children wander up and down the street here. There's no sidewalks, there's no place for them to walk. They're running between cars constantly. Also, I'd just like to say, you know, why are we having this meeting now after the builder already bought the property? You know, is it, it just seems like, you know, it seems like to me it sets a bad precedent to allow commercial entities to compete against individual property purchasers at this level and then flip it up into a commercial property. If this had been happened beforehand and had already been rezoned, this developer would be bidding against this property against a lot of other builders on an equal playing field. How much would it be paid for the property then? You know, I think this sets a bad precedent, and I think this destroys communities, allowing this to happen. And I think that cities had figured out a long time ago that this was a bad practice, and they figured out a way to prevent it. And they did it with zoning codes. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Moving on along that line.
My name's James Jansen. I live at 7741 West Harmony. And I have one of the properties boarding the zoning request. A little of my background, I'm a combat decorated veteran serving in the U.S. Navy in Vietnam for 2.5 years. I worked at Vulcan Chemicals, a Fortune 200 company that made the nastiest chemicals you can imagine. I've lived in my house since 1992. There are several things that we did at Vulcan that are a theme here. The first one is safety. No matter what project we did, whether it was $10,000 or $60 million, safety was first, along with environmental. I'd like to speak on these three areas: safety, traffic, and other topics. We pretty well beat safety to death on kids, sidewalks, and walking down and getting hit by cars. Crime will most likely increase. We've talked about that. We've talked about the Benton school kids walking past the property. Traffic, talked about that. They go on the Maple. We talked about riding bicycles and the bike path on Glen Eagle. On other things with respect to this property, why is this property purchased before it was even approved to be rezoned? It's not sure. Why didn't he buy some other kind of property like on University Street behind Target or behind Best Buy building? Probably priced cheap, most likely. These are surrounded by $300,000 and $400,000 homes, and he wants to build apartments in them. Well, I think we all agree we need to put a resounding no. Why isn't the requirement for this developer to show residents of Glen Eagles and Ashley Park a plot plan of his proposed building site and some details in parking in and out of the complex, a rendering of the buildings, and the price of the rentals? I had to do it when I managed $60 million projects as far as environmental plot plans and et cetera. I didn't even admit he doesn't even have that yet. Also, does Benton have room for the influx of children that expect to live in this complex?
So you have
That's
30
not-
seconds.
But that's not this problem. That's not their problem. That's the Board of Education. And finally, how would you feel if this was being proposed literally in your all's backyard? Mr. Johnson, any of you? I don't think you. Say,
In my backyard.
oh, it isn't. You live on the other side of it.
We go by there all the time.
Sir, you have 10 seconds.
Thank you for listening to me and my concerns. And I'd like for you to strongly consider a vote of no to this zoning request, as all of us in these two subdivisions are recommending. I have not heard an approval from anyone yet.
Anyone else in that back row, in the back row of seats?
I'm
Back
gonna
row of
try to
seats.
be last.
Oh, you're, okay, sorry. You're good, okay? Okay, then, yeah.
Let's see, I don't know.
Into the seat. And then we'll start.
Good evening, everyone. Most of you that live in Ashley Park know who I am. My name is Crystal Creer, and I am the president of the Ashley Park Homeowners Association. As it's been said, Ashley Park is a coveted community, and Richard did a great job telling you about all the restrictions we place on the people who live there. It was zoned as a single-family dwelling place, and everybody that has bought their property in both Ashley Park and Glen Eagles moved into their neighborhoods knowing that that's the way it was. And you know, I'll tell you something, before I came up here today, I have been told by multiple people, it doesn't do you any good to come and talk at this DAB meeting because they've already made their mind up. Everybody's in charge in favor of the builder. And I think one of the things that people have talked about this builder and this developer purchasing this land before any zoning changes shows their confidence that they believe this board is going to back them up and give them their proposal and let them do what they want. We are established neighborhoods. We want to keep it that way. And I will tell you, you are going to sandwich, especially Ashley Park, because on the other side are fourplexes. Ashley Park is right there in the middle, and then you're going to put apartments or duplexes. So you're going to sandwich expensive, nice homes in a coveted community with apartments or duplexes on one side and fourplexes on the other. And we have had nothing but problems from the fourplexes. As the president of the HOA, we have people coming in, they're cutting the fence, they're climbing the fence. We have people on our pond in the wintertime that break through the ice, that cause problems. They take our riprap, throw it into the pond. We've had people climb over the fence and get into our pool area and do a lot of damage. And that's from those fourplexes. It's going to get worse if you allow an apartment complex or even duplexes there. We are asking you and we are begging you to please look at the people that came to this place, that gave up their evenings. And I know you guys are having to give up yours, but hear our voices and please deny this request. Thank you.
We're gonna start along this edge and then go around.
Okay, my next, but not, no.
No, sorry,
Oh.
just so I can keep track, unless you want to change where you're standing.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna this way and then go around.
You can stay up in queue though.
You're
Save some time.
Kurt, you want to talk? And no. No, Bert, no. Susan, no. Okay, you are next.
Okay, you're next then.
Yes.
Sorry.
He's good.
Thanks all for taking some time to listen to me. It's really hard to follow that up. But I've lived in this area my entire life. I remember riding my bike down through Ashley Park. I actually lived around the Brown Fresh area, but I remember riding my bike through Ashley Park and seeing it be developed as I rode my bike down it. I've also witnessed all the commercial creep in over the years that didn't used to be there. My parents still live in the area, and you know we all have seen the effects of that. I live just about 4 houses off of Maple, 3 houses off of Maple, off the south side. And I can tell you that I hear a lot of noise pollution from that commercial area that did not used to be there. I have a 3-story home, and on that 3rd story, you can hear a lot from a long ways away. And when you're trying to raise 3 girls and everything, it can be kind of tough to, you know, get kids to bed when there's somebody in that area. Just revving of engines, things of that nature. And that's all going to be creeping up in that empty gap right there as this gets developed. I can almost guarantee it. And speaking as a landlord myself, I own a couple of rental properties. Sure, they're investments for my children, but I also see them as a way to give back to the community, way to give back to those areas, because I am vetting those people that are going into those houses. I'm doing background checks. I'm making sure that, yeah, I think this is going to be a good addition to this neighborhood. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen with this type of establishment going right up in there. There's going to be a lot coming up, like a lot of commercial creeping up in there that we have no control over. And I can't guarantee that the owners of that establishment are going to have that same
level of control, or take that same level of control when that is going into those units. So with that, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I was at 150 south. Is that it? Okay. I just wanted to point out a couple things, and some of that was just touched on the development that has kind of recently gone in. But since I've been a resident here, I've watched houses get torn out, several blocks where the houses get torn out just east of Ridge there, new people that live there. And that was turned into commercial property. Now there's a mini mall and several more businesses. We have all kinds of property all up and down Taft on both sides of Ridge that it's gonna be developed at some point. Something's gonna go in there eventually, just like the little mini mall north of Target, the Dairy Queen, and the brand new coffee shop that was just erected in Lowe's Parking lot in this last week. And so we know more stuff is coming already, and I don't know how this area is gonna continue to just always have more and more room for people and cars. The second thing is this area up here, I know at some point was part of a much larger farm or something. And while the domesticated animals have been removed, I know that's an ecosystem for a lot of animals on that property. I think there's a lot of nut trees on that property. It used to be an orchard or something. A nursery. So people like Everett still have pecan trees in his yard that are left over from that. You know, a lot of the trees that we have are left over from that old wood in this area. You know, there are squirrels, there are birds, some animals we don't necessarily want. But we have migrating birds that come through and use that area. And so, you know, part of me is like, when I saw that pond get ripped out and a Chick-fil-A put in, it kind of broke my heart. And when I look at this area here and you know, what's gonna happen? I would kind of like for some of those trees to stay. And, you know, some of those animals, instead of running off, like, you know, all the wildlife that does live in that area. Instead of tearing it all out and building a new little Sneedville. Thanks.
Just before my 3 minutes start, it's gonna depend on the board's answer. When you guys, Anthony. When you guys make your vote or recommendation, do you do it on us, the neighborhood, the community, or on your own personal beliefs, or what's better for the city or the zone, or what's your guidance on that?
All the above, yeah, combination of all of them, but we appreciate you all being here, right? And showing us your passion for your neighborhood.
Because no, we have not made our decision, as was stated earlier, we have not.
Okay, perfect. That's how I will start is just going on the good old trusty internet is I found Mr. Miller, is he here? Is that up a little? That the land is bought, paid for. Usually talking to other developers that I know, they buy the land on contingency based on, hey, this will go through as if everything else falls in place. So I don't know if it's a little arrogance on Mr. Miller's part going through and saying, yeah, we'll get it through. Just what I kind of observed earlier today, there wasn't the crowd. Everybody's like, yep. Hopefully you guys do your due diligence. Hopefully this is in front of you weeks or months ahead and you guys drive around and see the neighborhood. We're recently new to the Glen Eagles area. Me and my wife just love the country feeling. We both come from a small town. What my main concern is, this is gonna open up a Pandora's box because the comprehensive plan showed on Socorro as part of it. There's probably less than a mile, probably 3/4 of a mile, houses just on the east side and to the west side. That's 2 to 3 acres. You know, those houses, those values of those houses are cheaper than probably what they bought that for. It was listed for $600,000. I can't find what the purchase price was, but who's gonna spend $600K and have a roll of the dice if it's gonna go through? So I think someone mentioned earlier, if we can have the worst of two evils, let's see if we can get the bare minimum in there. Just looking at some stats I pulled online, there's 355 rentals on Zillow, 2165 properties for sale on Zillow. Our population is actually going down from 2020 to 2023, and you guys might correct me if I'm wrong. This is just what I pulled up. We're down almost 0.5% in population. Our jobs, I work for a major employer here, and everybody that I know, that I associate with, we're on a hiring freeze. People are getting laid off. It's not looking good for the economy for the future of Wichita in the short term, hopefully. And I did do some due diligence. People mentioned the apartments along Second. I started at Second and Ridge. I called. There's plenty of openings all the way down to 13th Street on the apartments that are on the east side. I said, how long do I need to get in right away? Nope, they've been open for months. I don't see the need for housing. I think a lot of it is media driven and greed driven. If I can stack in as many developments or development properties in one space, 2,000 a pop at 87 units, I'm making bank. And kudos, if you can, why not?
Sir, you have 30 seconds.
I challenge the developer to, and I'll back 100% if this happens. Let's make this a little community area. Let's put a dog park in there. Let's put a little pond in there. Let's make a little park. Let's just make it neighborhood friendly. For this area, that's what needs to go in there and not multifamily houses.
Yeah.
Anyone down the line speaking?
I'll go, but you wanna go? You. I'll go after you.
Everything. Ryan Olivan, 131 South Muirfield. I have to spell it every time I give my address. In Glen Eagles, I can say, one of the younger people in here, right? So look around. Me and my wife, we lived in Goddard Public Schools attendance area. We made a commitment to come to Wichita. We chose where we lived because of the community that you guys have created. And hearing from you guys tonight, a lot of you lived here when I was a little Ryan. Some of you lived where you lived before I was even a thing. So as a homeowner now, older, I would be pissed if my house backed up to this empty lot. I would be pissed that apartments are coming in. But thank you to this board. I know this is unpaid, so please give appreciation to that group, Mental Inclusion. I did have a couple points. I wasn't as eloquent as some of you guys writing and typing things out. Philip tonight quoted very continuous housing to the north. Seems continuous would be fractured. We looked at 2 other properties tonight. Looking at 2445, it made sense. It was already, if we pulled up the color map, it was already green on both sides. It makes sense that it doesn't have a block out of it. Another piece we heard about from the realtor, height compatibility, quoting him, the property is just for profit. Build as high means more money. I build my house as high,
because it meets my family's needs. It's not for money for me. It's to take care of my kids. So, last piece, I know a decision has to be made and there might need to be changes to this property. If changes are needed, I think it makes sense to match the average density that is already in the community. If changes are needed, that if we do need to use that land for something different, that the amount of people in that area matches the community that surrounds it, to keep it continuous, as folks said.
How long have you been?
Not moving around.
Huh?
GIF.
Was it 3 minutes? Huh?
I'm Jeanette Gilkey, and I live on the far east side of Ashley Park. I didn't plan to talk tonight, but I want to make sure that that part of the neighborhood is represented. It's not just the people that border the property that are opposed to this, it's everyone in Ashley Park. I think it's fair to say that even though you only see maybe 90 or 100 people here, I would imagine that all 139 homes in Ashley Park probably are not wanting this. But this really boils down, the whole situation boils down to the almighty dollar. And it seems that it would be a prudent decision to put the interest, the financial interest, as well as the emotional interest of hundreds of families above the interest of one man. So I would ask that it stay single family. But if you absolutely think it must change, then my next request would be only let it go up one level. Not to the multifamily, but to the 2-family. That would at least be closer to what we have. I also want to address, Philip mentioned that it serves as a step down area. Personally, I think that's a stretch. I don't see how, when it is bordered on 3 sides, and as he said, continuous single family, why step down is needed. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate you guys.
Are you speaking?
Yeah, go ahead.
What did I say?
My name is Longer.
Last name King, K-I-N. 7721 West Harmony. Yes, sir. So when you look at this map here, where it says West Harmony Court, Harmony Street runs east and west. I live right where it says AR. That's my home. My home backs up to this property fully and completely. From what I've heard tonight, a lot of things are based on contingency for profit. We didn't buy our homes for profit. We bought our homes to live. And this contingency thing that I keep hearing, the property was up for sale due to a divorce. It went to short sale. These guys are contingent that they would be able to come in and make this profitable to them. I don't understand how that works for all of us other residents who live there, where our property values are going to be demeaned, where we are going to have to share the space that we have created amongst all of us. You see here, 100 people. I've watched this whole meeting unfold from the time it started up until now. And everything else has just been kind of rough. Even the lady officer, the fire department guy that was here, they all seem like this was an abnormal thing. So maybe you guys should take that into consideration before you make any decisions regarding all of these people about how we proceed with this proceeding. Take us into consideration. When we move to the next level, the next step, the next meeting, I'm sure you're going to see a lot of these same faces all over again.
I've been standing over here watching and just kind of biting my tongue, but I'm watching kind of what you guys are doing too. And I'm seeing a lot of playing on the phone, looking at the phone, concerned with the game scores. That right there is not important to us at the moment. What's going to happen at this little space here, this blocked out in blue, that's what's important to us. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to us and hear us out. And I hope that you guys, as a panel, as a committee, will be a little bit more boisterous with your voices speaking for us, because you guys have the power to control what happens to our homes. Thank you.
Have your name.
I'm Roger, and I appreciate everybody being here, really do. And we already have over 60 petitions signed, verified, all the documentation on correct. Of the 200 feet around their property, we are exceeding 90%. This is a community that's involved. This community is my family. You're ripping our heart out by doing it. Please, don't do a mask. Give the developer what he bought, single family. He wants to put in multifamily, have him buy some other property, not rip us apart. We built our house here in '86. Jerry Russell built it. He did the whole development for Ashley Park. 20 years ago, we had a house fire. His family helped us through it. They helped my family through it. One of the neighbors took dogs. Others came over there and helped us go through our belongings. We cleaned up our house in 2 days. It took a year to rebuild it. This is my family. Don't kill us. Say no to his 18, whatever he wants to do. Don't do a mask on it. Just say no. Let us keep our family. Let's keep our community. If he wants to come back later on and do a TF3, whatever that is, then we'll go after him and see what's happening. But don't. Just say no. If it comes later on, the planning commission decides they want to do something different, we'll talk to them on that. They're going to be meeting in a couple of days. They can do anything they want to. They can put a mask in there if they feel that they want to. Even the city commission can do whatever they want to. All we can do is express, this is our community. It was always single family. Our lots are 10,000 square foot or bigger. They're not the 3,000 or 5,000. They're large lots. Our community is important. And I beg you to just say no. Thank you for your time. It's a lot an evening like this. And I do appreciate my family being here. I do.
I think we got everybody comment who wanted to comment.
Oh, that were.
Okay. Do you want to speak again, sir? Sure, yeah.
I'd be glad to try to. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions if you have any questions after hearing all the. One, you have a protective overlay option, which is the way you looked at it. That's something you're thinking about. To do, they had said something about duplexes. I mean, if you said, oh, just duplexes. If you left it in as a protective overlay to limit whatever goes in. With that, we can do multiple whatever on a single lot. If you were to try to take it back down to the duplex, then we'd have to break it up into each duplex on a lot because you can't have more than one. So we'd prefer if you guys want to throw some kind of an overlay on there, that would be an overlay. Rather than a change of zoning.
No.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm reading
Grace.
I'm reading the message from Grace, one of our board members. In an attempt to compromise, I would like to go ahead and suggest a traffic study done at that corner, as well as an adaptive overlay requiring the zoning to be limited to duplex. I am more than happy to collaborate with board members on the suggestion and a motion to approve this request. Sorry. Before we do any motions, I want to ask the rest of the board if there's any questions after listening to all the comments you had to Phil or Kirk.
So if we do not approve this, what will happen to the property?
We've got a motion on the floor, so we need to set it up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, so what?
Well,
She has made a,
You could still have discussion.
well, she says an emotion.
We're gonna have to do that motion first. but
Make sure
still
they
have
understand
discussion.
singular, not duplex.
Wait, with our other,
Go ahead and clarify if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Grace.
I would love to clarify that I apologize, barely have a voice. I'm still recovering, but I'd like to find some sort of compromise where we can do a traffic study at the corner as well as that adaptive overlay, limiting to one duplex. So that would be a two household home with one duplex. But that's kind of where I want to start off with the board in kicking things off in the conversation.
So it's not a motion.
so Grace, did you make a motion or not, or you want to have further discussion?
Let's go ahead and I'll redact my motion and let's go ahead and have a discussion amongst the board.
Okay.
My question is, what would happen to the property if we do not approve this? Would the seller
If
sell?
it gets denied by city council, I guess is where you're going with this, right? As opposed to this body, because there's still two other bodies that vote on it. I don't know.
But it can still get developed as
Sorry.
single family.
We have to have the forum, the conversation is now back to the board.
Speak up.
Has the developer considered any other options besides residential, besides multifamily, such as commercial, such as a dementia memory care home that is a quiet residence? There's one over off of 29th at Tyler that you don't even see hardly any cars going in and out of there, and it's super quiet. I live very close to there. Is that something that this developer would even consider in that spot versus the other?
Well, if you gave him commercial zoning, he'd give him a lot more options. He could still do multifamily, he could do commercial, he could do whatever if you had commercial space.
And I will just say, as a member of the board of DAB, I am a realtor in the community. I have sold 2 homes in this community in the last 3 years. And they're right on in Ashland Park, right on Crown Fresh. And I think as a realtor, it would be very hard to sell a home in the future and convince a buyer that they want to purchase in either neighborhood, knowing that an apartment complex is in there. Because I get a lot of those questions and, oh, well, what's going to be behind here? Here's a big field and I have to do research and figure it out. So I know that people that I recently helped purchase their homes, they're very proud of those neighborhoods, and we looked a long time to try and find those homes. And so I think that keeping it residential single family homes is a very good idea.
This is just point of clarification. You mentioned like memory care home assisted living. That is a permitted use in the MF 18 district that they are requesting. It may not be what they were possibly going for, just for the board's consideration, since you brought up that is an idea. That is an allowed use in the requested zoning, just for more information for the board to consider.
Okay.
Is there a medical overlay then?
I'm sorry, sir,
I feel we have a recommendation from the Metropolitan Planning Committee. I think we have a recommendation and we should vote on the recommendation as it is. And that if there are compromises to be made, those compromises happen outside of this arena, and then they come back to us, or we make recommendations for those after we talk about them. My concern from the beginning of this meeting a couple hours ago was that we don't have a plan, and I think because we don't have, from my perspective, we don't have a plan, it's difficult for me to approve something when I don't know what you really want to do with them. And there are neighbors that are all around here that are really concerned about their neighborhood, and to put myself in a vote on something that I don't know could go, or the possibility of something could go, I think is just really difficult to do.
The only body that will have influence on the city council as far as overlays or changing the zoning is this body. It won't be MABC.
Okay, but if
So
we.
if, I'm not saying do it.
Yeah.
At all, you can vote it down, period. If there was a compromise, you're the body that would do that.
But if we make the compromise, do we make it in motion? And it's a big decision to make in a short period of time, that we're sitting here with a lot of very technical information, and I'm not a realtor, I'm a lay person being here.
And you could vote it down, and then they would probably have to come back with another request for
Correct.
zoning, another meeting.
Correct.
You can do that too.
So can I ask you to just speak the process for a second in terms of sequential order of why it's land use first before like any sort of plating, and why a zoning request change comes after the procurement of the property versus before?
So it's a good question. So I'll answer your last question first. The developer could have put in a contract, as somebody in the audience mentioned, where the sale of property was contingent. That was a choice that they made. A property owner has to be the one to request a zone change. So typically that's why something happens either in the process of buying or after a property is purchased, because somebody cannot ask for zoning on property they don't own. And if they put a contract on the property, essentially the owner of the property is requesting it, but really the contract purchaser is the one bringing the request for it. They just need the property owner's signature. So that's the sequence there. In this case regarding land use and then platting, this property essentially was out in the county at one point. It was blocked off and created through a separate process. In the city code, essentially now any type of future development on the property requires platting. So platting does not come first, because that is they could plat it, but platting is the part of the process where they start delineating how many lots are going to be on there, where would entrance points be, or possible road networks, easements, drainage plans, and all of that is based on what is going to happen on the property. So you don't necessarily plat a property if you don't know how you're able to use it. And so really, truly, this process is kind of a chicken and the egg process. It is a little backwards and forwards at the same time, as you kind of need to know what you can do before you can lay out how the property can be used, and where easements can go, and where an entrance can be, and where a possible road would be. And so it is a little confusing, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Is in this case, it really has to come zoning first, whatever that zoning is, and then platting second, just because you can't plat a property and then realize, oh, we could use it differently, because then you have to come back and replat the property. And that's where, again, it is a bit of a chicken and the egg, and oftentimes zoning comes before platting for that very reason.
But is it fair for me to say that to purchase a property, I can have a vision of what I want to do with that property, regardless of the executed technicals of the deal?
To his fullest capacity is what he is verbally told his this neighborhood. I think it needs to remain a single family zone. I don't think we need to compromise to the TF3. I don't think it needs to be an MF18. If you look at page 6, that color coded document, this would be the only segment of that block that's orange. And to me, you know, as a district advisory board, we're here on behalf of the constituents that show up And I think it's overwhelmingly obvious to me what these people are telling us that they want, regardless of statistics based on, Philip, your wide knowledge of zoning changes and stats and all of that. To me, looking at page 6, that color coded document, it just doesn't make any sense. I think we have all of the information that we need to vote on this. So I'd like to bring a motion to the board to deny the proposed zoning change.
The staff recommendation.
Excuse me?
Deny staff recommendation.
Yes, deny the staff recommendation.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, so all in favor of denying the staff recommendation, raise your hand. Denying the staff recommendation, raise your hand.
What?
Wait,
what is
You ready?
I was.
What's great is
To deny. I approve to deny. So she-
Group to deny, okay.
Okay, any abstentions?
You guys need clarification on where I stand. Okay, thanks.
9-1 to deny.
So, motion 9-1 to deny.
Right.
Not be the same way as we are.
We don't? We're good. Oh, sure. Of course.
Oh, I think